Danfo offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshe traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danfo, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danfo, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danfo.Africa. To learn more, visit Danfo.Africa.
Peace, family. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Hit that like button. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. I will greatly appreciate it. Got a couple of announcements before we get started. Announcement number one: we are rolling to Nigeria. We're rolling to Nigeria. Man, we're almost in July. We're past the half point, the middle point of the year already. Man, we are in July already, pretty much. But excuse me, we are rolling to Nigeria. That is going to be August 2nd through the 11th. August 2nd through the 11th, we are rolling to Nigeria. If you're interested in joining us, please visit Danfo. That's Danfo.Africa. Again, if you're interested in joining, please visit Danfo. That's Danfo.Africa to learn more. We would love to host you. Also, call to action. If you are watching this and if you have not bought, well, even if you already bought a book, I need you to go right now, okay, to Amazon.com. All right. I need you to go to Amazon.com and type in Dynast Amir. All right, one of my books are going to pop up. Just buy a book. Again, buy a book. I will greatly appreciate it. It really means a lot. Again, it really means a lot. Then after that, I need you to go to Danfo.Africa. Click on documentary, and I need you to support the documentary. So do that as well. Shout out to Daniel Barrett Sports Highlights 5851. Thank you for joining us. So that's the call to action. I need everybody who watches this to do that. I will greatly appreciate it. It means a lot. Your support means a lot. So buy the documentary, buy the book. The documentary is actually streamed. And we'll be good to go. Wylla, where you going, Wylla? Where are you going? I see you walking away. Okay, you'll be back? Okay. Without further ado, we have a special guest on with us today. Someone made a request in the chat room when we had Cal on. How about bring on an actual American Liberian, or a so-called who was considered American Liberian, or the Congo people, which they were called as well. So I personally know one very well. Her name is Wylla, Miss Wylla Dixon. So we're going to have Wylla on, and she's going to tell us about Liberia from her Perspective. Okay, Willa's back now. So let me add Willa. Hey Willa,
Hi,
we hear you. We hear you loud and clear.
I'm ready.
You said you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, everybody, let's give Willa a loud round of applause. Guys, where's my music? Where's my sounds, my sound effects? There we go. There we go. There we go. Hey Willa.
Hello to everyone.
Hello. We got a couple comments. Okay, yeah, Elvis for absolutely, Elvis, absolutely. Just let me know.
Oh,
All right,
Elvis is
so
on.
yeah, Elvis is in the chat.
Oh, good, good.
Mhm. So everyone, welcome Willa, and Willa
Yeah.
is my Americo Liberian friend. Um, and
No,
yeah,
no. I'm your godmother. I'm too old to be your friend.
okay. I'm sorry, my godmother. I'm sorry. Can we call you
That's a,
auntie? Can I
yeah.
call
You can
you
call me
auntie?
auntie. Yeah, yeah. I'm older
Okay,
than your
my
mother, I
auntie.
believe. Am I? I'm older than your mother. I think.
Well, if you don't mind sharing your age, Willa,
Oh no! On July 5th, I will be 69.
you're about my mom's same age. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're about my
All right.
mom's same age. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm an
yeah.
auntie. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you'll be my auntie. So Auntie Willa is on with us today. And today's topic, Willa, just we've been, once a year we start having this Liberia discussion again.
Yeah.
Because it's about once
And
or twice a year somebody
it goes
puts out.
around and around in a circle because every time you think people know, then you hear the whole same story again.
Right,
So,
exactly. So I'm like, let me bring Willa on and Willa, go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll get into the topic.
sure. My name is Wylla Alma Dixon. I'm from what we call up the river in Liberia, which means that I'm from one of the, well, two of the settlements. On my mother's side, I'm from Louisiana, Liberia, which was settled mostly by people who came out of Louisiana, some freed men, some never, some previous slaves. And then on my father's side, I come out of clay ashland, which is where you have like the Colemans and the Coopers and certain, a lot of names come out of there. A lot of those people came out of Kentucky and other places. So I am a true so-called Congo woman. I can't claim a tribe. I don't know where my folks came from before they came to. Oh, I plan to do my DNA, I think.
Yeah, do
But
African ancestry. Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm gonna do ancestry. You're right. Because I just all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I do that? I don't know why I never thought about it.
Yeah, that'd
But
be good to know.
I'm going to do it this year. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
in the process of moving. So probably by I mean in July. So by August when I'm settled, I'll do it.
Okay. Okay. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I really
That'll be
want to
interesting.
try because all of a sudden I'm like, what? Because I just thought of myself, oh, I'm African, blah, blah, blah. But then it just dawned on me, I'm like, wait a minute, but I don't know. I do know one thing. One branch of my family on my mother's side. Now, I was like 10 or 12 around that age. And these men used to come. My mom said they were her cousins. They were tall. They all wore gowns. I don't know whether they came from Senegal or Mali, and they spoke some, but I can't remember. I was like a kid, you're not paying attention.
Hmm.
And then I forgot all about them because when I left Liberia at 19, I forgot. And then someone said to me, actually, the man I call the professor, he is from Nimba County, and he's from the Mono tribe. Yeah, he's an author, and yeah, he lives in Rhode Island, so he's a friend of mine. So
Hmm.
he said to me one day, because he knows all about the tribes, he said, are you related to like the Madingos or the Fulas? I'm like, why?
Hmm.
So so I said, but you know what? Not I used when I was a kid, these people used to come from somewhere and stuff like that. They were all tall, dark. They looked like. now in hindsight, maybe like cynically, and then they spoke a different thing. And my mom, and they would come and visit my mom, and my mom said they were her cousins. But I don't know. I don't know what that story, and I don't know how I lost it somewhere. I never asked my mom.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So I have some of that. I think yeah.
All
So
right.
maybe they
So,
came from the Congo. I don't even know. Yeah.
so growing up in Liberia, how was it? Like, how was Monrovia, Liberia? Like, how was?
Oh, well, I believe, and anyone who's my age, who became of age in the late 60s to 70s, who was like a teenager. And I've even heard not just Liberians, but I came across a lady from Ghana, a family from Ghana. And I've also come across people from Nigeria or other places, or in Sierra Leone, who are my age.
No, we lost her. All right, guys, hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Let me message her and let her know that we lost her. Let me guys, sorry about that. Let's wait for her to get her connection back, and then we'll re-add her to the chat. But yeah, we unfortunately lost Miss Wylla, and she was flowing about to go in. Um, yeah, I appreciate these stories. One thing I regret, my father, he passed away in 2017. He spent a lot of time. Let me show you guys this picture. So this is my dad and my sister in um in Liberia right here. I got the picture somewhere. Oh, here we go, right here. Right here. Pull it up just now. So this is my dad and my sister in Liberia. Oh, she's back. Hold on, she's back.
Very much. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was just very urgent, so I just had to say I'll call back. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. So and this lady, I was talking to her. I met her family just by. I was just out and about in Providence because we have a lot of the World Cup people, the ones that
Mhm.
are, yeah, a lot of them they're between Boston and Rhode Island because they're playing also at Gillette Stadium. So that's just like 15, 20 minutes for me in between Matt.
Yeah.
So I have a lot, right. So I have a lot of World Cup uh, people. When you go downtown, you see them meeting people. So anyway, I think she and her family, and she said somebody from there, because it's right across from the mall. And she saw me. I had on one of my African attire, and she came up to me and said, "Oh, where are you from?" So anyway, we started talking, and she go, "Oh, as a matter of fact, my parents and I." It sounds like her parents were upper middle class. She said, "When I was a teenager, when my parents built their home, we went to Liberia to get the furnishings, like the all of like pots, pans, nice dishes, beddings." She said because you know how people go to America and Europe now to buy things for their homes.
Hmm.
People from Ghana, Sierra Leone, all around who had money would come to Liberia to buy those items because we always had at that time you could order from Sears. We had the Sears Roebuck, and there was
Oh, okay,
another big,
yeah.
yes, there was another big company, and they had satellites in Monrovia through the post office.
I'm thinking it's probably Woolworths if it's back
Thank
then.
you.
Was it
That's
Woolworths?
it.
Was
So
Woolworths?
right.
Yeah.
So but my family used to order from Sears and Roebuck. So like all of our shoes, like Buster Brown, those.
Yeah,
So it was all right.
yeah,
Yeah. So we had Buster Brown stuff. We had nice lot of stuff, denims and stuff, all from Sears and Roebuck. So that's how advanced Liberia was. So other Africans in West Africa will come to Monrovia to shop and get the things that from America because they used to come. Actually, at the time you had Pan Am, SAS. from
Hmm.
Europe and British. All three of those carriers, Pan Am flew from JFK direct twice a week.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, they will come and then come do something else. I don't know where they're going to come. Yeah, it was twice a week. And then SAS, which was the Scandinavian carrier, they would come also from Europe. So people coming from other parts of Europe would connect through either Amsterdam or somewhere. I forget where they came through, and they would come once a week. And it was pretty busy. Robertsfield was busy. People came all the time. Also, the people that came, if you were, and again, I am speaking of my experience
Hmm.
and my life based on my family's connections and income.
Okay.
I cannot speak to people who lived differently than me. I was when I left Liberia, I was 19, just about to turn 20 when I came.
And
I went.
what year was that when you left?
This was 1977 that I came. Well, first of all, I was part of the JCs in Liberia. And when they had the bicentennial in 1976, I was
Hmm.
chosen as one of the student delegates because I spoke so well and I debated and all that. So I was chosen. We were like different high school and colleges. I think there were about 20 of us chosen, all paid for, to come to
Hmm.
the bicentennial in St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the first time I came to the States, and we were here for like 2 months.
Oh wow.
They
Okay.
gave us, they gave us like a 90-day visa, and we came to the bicentennial. We even had like it was a delegation. We met like American diplomats and
Hmm.
people who were in American government at that time. Yeah, we got like really special treatment. We were between like 18, between 17 and like 19, right? So
Hmm.
I was very fortunate. I can't remember how I got, but anyway, each school there was certain, like my school was kind of like academic, so at that time it was one of the most prestigious schools. So, and school like St. John and Bethany in Cape Mount, they had representative. Conala Academy had representative. I think the Booker Washington Institute had yeah. So certain schools, and it was paid for with it was sponsored by the Department of Education, Liberia, and the State Department here. So it was like a higher up thing. And we came to I that was like a very, very interesting experience. That was my first time. And we were in it was in St. Louis. It was like in the yeah, it was this time of year. So and because we had a 90-day visa, after the celebration, which lasted about 2 weeks, we could, were approved to travel anywhere. You just had to be back home by the, certain date. So that was when from St. Louis, I came to Boston to check it out because I've always loved New England and Boston, but mostly the reason why I was so familiar with Boston and Cambridge because I had two family members that had gone to Harvard, one of my uncles, and then another distant family member. They had gone to Harvard in the late 50s to 60s. And they always talked about it when they came to America. They would go to the thing and tell the history of Black people. At that time, the area of Boston that's called Beacon Hill, where they have the State House and all, that was the Black part of town.
Hmm.
So now Beacon Hill in that area is where all the very rich people live. And then also on the hill, you have the Capitol with the gold dome and all that. But right across from there, there's still a building that they call the Old African Meeting House. And that was established by Frederick Douglass, some American white abolitionist uh helped sponsored him and a couple of people. I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a movie, there was, I don't know whether he was a captain or something. He headed during the Civil War the black militia. That movie, that what's his name was in. Yeah,
Who?
so oh god, I can't think of it, but
Gl-
there's a war movie about
Glory? Was it Glory? Glory,
Right,
Denzel Washington.
right. And the white
Yeah,
gentleman he headed the, what you call it, the battalion, the
yeah,
all
yeah,
black.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. He was from one of the Boston prominent families, and his family were kind of low key underground railroad type people, but they were part of the Boston aristocracy. But he was in the military, and so he volunteered to head that battalion of all black soldiers. So that is a true story. And actually, right in the park, when the day you do come, I'll take you and show you. They have a statue of all the black soldiers, and then him. They all helped to create the African Meeting House, which still stands today. And any major black event happening happens there, and is right across from the State House. And there's a lot, and people don't realize there's a lot of African American history, mostly dealing with how a lot of those at the time men were educated by the Quakers and then supported by abolitionists. Because even though some of these people were from the aristocracy, but they were underground supporting things like the Underground Railroad. They were supporting a lot of things like that. There are a couple of huge families. I can't remember their names now, but they're there. All of that history is there. So that's what's my interest in Massachusetts from the history. So that's why when I came and checked out Boston, the era, and I really liked it. What I liked about it was the intellectual atmosphere. It's very, very intellectual, even though Boston has a history of racism and all that. But I feel everywhere in America has their own history of racism. So I put that aside in one bucket. But for me, the history, the intellect of the people. Most people here, I think, I don't know where else, but most people in and around from Massachusetts are very, very not just educated, but exposed. And the reason for that is there are a lot of schools here that have a lot of international people from all over, from Africa, from Asia, from all over South America. So some of the best minds have come to school in Massachusetts, not just Massachusetts, but mostly Harvard, MIT, and then in Rhode Island, Brown University. And in Boston, you have UMass, Northeastern, lots of Africans were going there. So I didn't feel isolated at all because there were all these, at that time, they had African student unions. So, and you didn't, even if you didn't go to the school. So it's like when I came in 77 as a freshman the next year, I became a part of the African Union group, which was formed in at Harvard. So, but what they would do, any student of at whatever African country you were, if you were interested and like-minded, to join because their prime, the main thing they were working on at that time was the anti-apartheid movement, fighting for apartheid. I remember the Channel 5 did an interview, and I was part of the group with students from Harvard and other schools. I went to a little school, a private girls' school, but everybody. So there were some guys who Harvard had given scholarship to that were attending Harvard from South Africa. And then there were people like there were South Africa, Kenya, and of course, I think the biggest group that were here were Liberians, to be honest. Yeah, because at that time, a lot of Africans did not have scholarships to come to school. But in Liberia, there was quite a good group of Liberians that were here some going to Harvard, some going to Northeastern, some going to like this, my MIT or here at Brown and so forth. So the Ivy Leagues. So that was the mix. So since we had that, personally, I'm talking about me because I've always liked politics since I was little. I don't know how, when, and I was either going to be a journalist or a work in travel. I love travel too, but I love geography, history. So it just drew me. It was just a natural place. And because I got to know this group of Africans through them, also I got to know groups of Caucasians, Americans, of course, Northern. I got to know Asians, students. I made friends, students who were here from Asia. I got to those students who were here from Russia. So my world was just huge in that regard because, and it was the same, group of people. So even though I had traveled all over this United States, I had never met, uh, experienced that kind of intellectual center in any particular place that I prefer. So, in terms of racism, that was there, but it was what I was doing was more important to me than the racist stuff was happening. But the racist stuff is happening everywhere in America on a different level, depending on where you were. I remember the first time I went south to and spent, my company sent me to the Virginia Beach area or Norfolk on an assignment to do. They got a new account with Dole, the pineapple company, and again because of my international background, anytime they had something to do with international, and especially if it was Africa, South America, and the third, they would always send me because even though I wasn't a manager or anything, I was just considered a senior corporate agent. But I knew the most. And then most of the Americans, of course, everybody was white, did not want to deal with Africa and South because they didn't know. You have to remember, this is before we had computers where you could Google, so you had to know your geography. You had to actually build your itineraries. Let's say like Harvard had people for the Institute of International Development. They will be going to some parts of South America to do research and study. They'll be going from country to country to country. Back then, there wasn't an itinerary set. So you had to know how to create your itinerary. You really had to know how to be a travel. You had to know your geography. You had to know your history. You had to know the politics. So I got, because of that, because I was strong in that area, I got to experience a lot of things because I was sent because I knew what I was talking about. And even my bosses a lot of times didn't know, and especially Africa. They like, it was as if talk about the dark continent. Like, so when the clients will call and say, "Well, I want to go to East Africa," and they're from east to south. So first, I want to go to Kenya, then I want to go to Uganda. Then they'll name the countries, and then they'll name how to, and it will be like this major thing. So everybody would come running to me. "Oh, well, can you do this? I don't even know how to spell." So, but that gave me a niche. That I made myself like what's the word? I was totally crucial because people would call me from New York to ask me. So this was like the 80s. Like yeah, 80, yeah, from the 80s. But we didn't get computers to work with until American Airline, uh I think through, I forget which company from Silicon Valley. They made Sabre.
All right, guys, please hit the like button again. Please hit that like button if you have not. I think Willa got a call, so she fell off. But let me show you this picture. Let's see here. Yeah, that's it. So that's my dad and my sister um in Liberia. This is back in the this had to be back in the late 70s. Yeah, this had to be in the late 70s. That's my dad and my sister in Liberia. So there you guys go. You're gonna have to be the late 70s. So yeah. So yeah, just wanted to share that, you guys. But again, hit the like button. Please hit that like button. We'll wait for Willa to come back on. She probably No. I'm gonna let Willa talk about her experience, and then we'll direct the conversation, and then we'll get back to Liberia, and then I'll put the link in the chat room. You guys can call in and add to the conversation. But yeah, let Willa, let Auntie Willa do her thing. But if you have not, guys, please go to Amazon.com. All right. You're gonna type in my name, Dynast Amir. If you do not have a book, if you're watching this and if you have not bought a book, please go to Amazon and support and buy one of my books. Okay. Again, please go to Amazon.com, type in my name, and buy a book. And also, if you have not bought my documentary, please go to, guys, give me a second. Guys, sorry about that. I accidentally logged off. But yeah, we're waiting for Will to come back on. But if you have not already, please go to Danfo.Africa. Again, please go to Danfo.Africa. Please go to Danfo.Africa and buy a documentary. Click on documentary. It's a link. It's like a Netflix site. So you go there, you buy the documentary, and you're able to watch the documentary. Willa, you there? Willa? I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat room. You guys are more than welcome. You guys are more than welcome to click on the link and add to the convo. Again, you're more than welcome to click on the link. Ivory says, I'm just going to claim I'm from Boule land. Hey, you could be from wherever you want to. You could be from wherever you want. The way things are here in America, you can be from wherever you want. But guys, links in the chat. We're waiting on Willa. If you guys want to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation. Link is Danfo, Danfo.Africa. Okay, click on. Okay, this is Ivy. Go ahead, Ivy. Ivy.
Hey, can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Hi, well, thank you for doing the show. I just got a book to read on Liberia.
Okay.
I just don't understand some of the comments, and I just believe that we're just in a really bad state intellectually. Now, even Tariq Nasheed says years ago that he descends from some Africans.
Right.
So I just don't understand what's going on, and sometimes it's very scary. And I just feel like I just need to give up on the community when I see your guests come up on your panel, and people leave comments. So,
Can you be specific when you say come up on the
well,
panel?
it's
What
it's,
is
it's
it?
just ignorance. A lot of your people who come on your panel, they're not intellectual giants. It's just an issue to me.
Mm-hmm.
How can we have leaders in our community when I hear your panel? We're in a bad state. So I'm just gonna. I feel like I just needs to hide, at Oaks Bluff in August and just claim that I'm from Boule land because it's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much. And you know what I'm talking about.
I agree, people, but I mean
Come
that's
on
just
now.
just a lot of our people aren't well read and traveled. I mean
My
that's
goodness. It's like a lot of so-called FBAs, ADOS, usually are either multiracial due to our 500 plus history in the Americans. I'm not saying that there were not ancient Africans in the Americas, but I know my family lineage has only been here maybe 400 to 500 years.
All right.
My family lineage is of African, European, and indigenous DNA. I've got my DNA done. I know my oral history. And I feel that Liberia was an accomplishment for Black Americans who descended from slaves. It just went very badly, and we can learn from it. But it was an accomplishment. And I don't understand this slave mentality that Black Americans, we should not be explorers. We should not travel. That was a good thing that those Black Americans did who descended from slaves, was to venture off to Liberia and try to set up a republic. There was nothing wrong with that. Europeans, they, navigate the whole entire planet, and they're going out in space. And so we're not supposed to be explorers. We're just supposed to stay, you know, i- in Texas and never leave and travel. I don't understand it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, let me back. Go ahead,
yeah. As far as what the last caller just said,
Hello?
but I was really waiting on the host to, I was gonna ask, but as far as like us not claiming to be Africa, I think at this point that's just a moot issue because obviously, like it was one of Dinah's guests said, obviously you could look at me, we look like Africans, so why would you ask me, am I African or not? But I think a lot of times people get a negative experience with actual Africans who want to tell us we're not African, even though obviously we look how we look. You want to tell me I'm not African, and then it's more mind-boggling when they end up talking about they're not Black. So that's like a whole like culture shock because our idea of Black has something to do with like genetic predisposition. It has something to do with being in proximity to white global supremacy. So their whole mindset is different, and then they want us to believe that we can actually determine our genetic makeup based on our social construct. Like, why would you ask me, am I African? And then the research that's popping up, which gives credence to people's I guess you could say wandering or roaming with their identity, because we're not really accepted by Africa like that, because of what they say. I'm not saying it's a totality, but then we start remembering the conversations about indigenous, and then Albert Perry, when they did his genetics, they found that he had African DNA, but his DNA preceded the Africans by 200,000 years. So it's questions like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you start researching the Dogon, how they talk about their ancestors came by way of boats and ships, flying ships, and they got all of their knowledge from them. So are they talking about us? And then we got these stories about Mansa Musa and them going back and forth, pre-Columbian era. So I don't think people's discounting African DNA. They're probably saying that we're the origin and not them. And then who can prove other than a geneticist when they do they got these quadratic equations to figure out how old your genetics is in comparison to a chimpanzee or whatever. So who's to say who's right? One person said I'm the first. The other people in Africa saying they the motherland. But if they say they're the motherland, why would they deny us? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't really make sense. So I think people just basically, circling their horses or their carriages, and it's basically my word against yours. At that point, like, how can you just look at me and tell me I'm not African, and I got all of the things that allegedly determine the hair texture, the facial features, the negroid cranium, and anthropologists look at the cranium. You got the negroid cranium, the Caucasoid cranium, the Ostrozoid cranium, and the Mongolian cranium. So we have the cranium, we have the lips.
Oh man, we got we're just off topic now, man. You just be getting carried away. Wylla, are you back? No, she's not. Go ahead, Elvis. Unmute yourself, Elvis. Elvis, unmute yourself. All right,
Yeah,
guys. Link.
trying.
Go ahead. Here,
Yeah.
go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Look, hello to you on the panel, and I think great show, and special hello to Ms. Willa Dixon. Look, Dennis, I think the question is a resounding yes. African Americans, or at the time, and many people know this, they weren't even called African Americans. When Liberia was funded, it was still, slavery going on in the United States. So they were not considered quote unquote
Elvis, you
citizens.
got Elvis. You got like an echo, like you're in an empty room on speakerphone.
I got an echo.
Well, it's like you sound like you're just in like an empty room, like with no what just walls and no furniture, and it's just
Let me see.
echoing.
I don't know how you hear
No,
me
you sound
now.
good. You sound good now. Go ahead.
Okay, because I have my headphones and I had to take it out. But yeah, the point I was making is that they had a tremendous accomplishment by funding and developing Liberia. That, on the face of it, is it's a great accomplishment that should be celebrated. For me, I've always admitted that my contention has never been whether or not they created and built up Monrovia in particular. That was never my contention. On the other parts of it is the social dynamics between the settler class and the natives. Many felt, and those who lived it, that's why I say I have a couple people who lived it, who actively participated in what we call the progressive movement. And I can bring a few of them on to give you a different perspective. This issue with Liberia is not about one side being, terrible to the other side. There was a power structure. And when people are in power, they tend to want to isolate themselves in order to maintain power. So people from outside that specific class or even lineage found it difficult to get into their power structure, especially politically. So there was some form of discrimination against, the natives, especially those who are outside of, the political elites. So for me, I think when we're talking about Liberia, we have to talk about it with a somber tone. And when people bring up, and when people have a more aggressive tone than myself, I take a more aggressive tone. But really, it's a sad situation that happened. I think they should have integrated, the quote unquote natives and those who were becoming more educated from the native stock into government, made it a holistic effort to really bring the nation together. But I don't think we disparage or take away the accomplishment of the settlers who, started the country. I think that's a given fact. So I just want to come in and give those points, Donnie. I think I'll pass the mic for now.
Okay, guys. Links in the chat room. We're waiting for Willa to come back on. But link is in the chat room. If you guys want to add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to add to the convo. The link is in the chat room.
Can I ask Elvis a couple of questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, Elvis. We had a guest. I mean, Dinah's obviously had the guest, but I'm a viewer, and she said that the natives, certain native sovereign tribes, during what's it called, the Berlin Conference, they had a choice whether they could actually be subjected to the European powers or be protected by the Liberian government, a sovereign government. So let me ask you this: what caused the European powers to not dominate Liberia? And do you believe that Liberia is a genetic FBA country and not a native Liberian country?
I mean, that's a silly thing to say. I'm not even going to take that tune with you. I'm going to give you grace. You've been wanting to engage with me for a while, but I don't know the answers to all the questions, right? Um, Liberia is made of 16 unique, well, not unique, but 16 ethnic groups. And the quote unquote American Liberians or the Congo people, for some reason, they're not listed as one of the ethnic groups, because we have a list of all the different tribes, if you want to call it that, with the different masks that go with it. And the American Liberians or the Congo people are not amongst those groups. I don't know why they excluded themselves. Now we have some people who want to be recognized as a tribe of Liberia. Call it, the Congo people wants to be now be recognized as a tribe when they themselves, recognize the other tribes but fail to include themselves as a tribe in the country. That's one thing. So Liberia has about close to 6 million people. You can argue that maybe 95% of them are of native heritage. So to say that the country is an FBA country is just not true. The vast majority is quote unquote native or indigenous, and then a few of them are mixed with Congo blood or American Liberian blood. So it's really hard to find a pure quote unquote American Liberian. They're all mixed in, with the native people. Some people were more adjacent to the American Liberian lifestyle, like the Bassa, the Va, even the Gribbles. They kind of intermix with them. So it's a black country overall. First of all, the problem many people don't understand is that when the coup happened and those people were executed, they think that you know it was just some native rising up and taking them out of pure jealousy. But I'll give you a quick history here.
Forget that, because I don't
Well,
want to you to
let
go
me
on.
get 30 more seconds to flesh it out.
But let me reiterate. I was
Okay.
asking you about why did the Berlin Conference exclude Liberia? Why didn't they conquer Liberia?
I mean, I don't know if you know this, right? But Liberia, even though it was a black nation, they still had allies with the United States, with places like Germany. They had international allies, and especially with the United States, having had the ACS like Yehudi Ashman and some other folks who were the first governors of Liberia, they had an attachment to the United States and they lobbied the United States government along with, other Western government. So I'm not telling you that it was just purely the black people that staved of the Berlin Conference or Liberia being colonized. It was even a point where United States Navy ships was on the coast of Liberia helping to
But we protected your tribe from being colonized by European
you
powers.
see that's where you want to go, and that's a
It's the
sad thing,
truth. We
right?
the founding fathers. You don't believe we to celebrate our founding fathers like George
You
Washington,
see, Donnie, that's what I said. I want to give you grace,
Thomas
but
Jefferson?
you
But I
want to
mean,
make me
but
go.
but I mean, does he is he wrong?
He's wrong because I don't know if you say my founding fathers. I don't know if you know who I am or what ethnic group I come from, but the group of people that I come from, they're about, let's say, close to 1.5 million, half of them that live in the Ivory Coast, right? And there's about 300,000 or 400,000 that live in Liberia itself. So there's a river called the Kavala River in eastern Liberia that separates the Ivory Coast, and Liberia border. And the part of my people live on that side, which is part of the Ivory Coast, and the other live on the other side, which is Liberia. So you didn't protect them. Some of them willingly went into the French territory, and they're French, or they're Ivorians today. They speak French, and the others stay on the other side. So it's a mix. Same thing with the Mono people. Some of them are living in Guinea. Some of them live in Liberia from Nimba County. The Don people, a lot of them live in Ivory Coast. They speak French. A lot of them live in Liberia. They speak English.
But let me say this
So those
thing.
people are part of two different countries, but they're the same ethnic groups.
Would you agree that at the time the American Liberian government was equal to the French to the European powers as far as being able to protect either or? You had a choice whether you go to this side or that side. Does that show that they were somehow equal in power?
I mean, come on, bro. Don't be delusional.
It's just truth.
They weren't equal.
Sovereigns are equal to each other,
Without the United States influence, they weren't equal.
but a
Right. So I
sovereign
don't
is
know what you're
equal.
talking about. I mean, you just want to fight, and I don't want to
It's
go
not.
down
It's
that
not a
road
fight.
till
It's
we get
just
in a
how
distance.
international law works. All sovereign nations are equal.
Yeah, but I need military power. They're not.
But they did send black. I mean, after the I forgot his name. He was a Navy guy, a white Navy guy who also sailed to Japan. After him, right after his influence and the influence of J.J. Jenkins, right, the first president. They send black Buffalo soldiers to pretty much hold it down.
That was the most fierce force on earth at the time. The Buffalo Soldiers.
Um,
The whole planet feared them. But that might be the answer right there.
You know, it's
Yeah, but who
it's the
sent them?
work, right? It's the work of our ancestors that made that whole thing happen, right? The influence to send them back. You
I mean,
know,
as far as like when you become sovereign, they got their independence and they was recognized by other sovereign nations. Why don't Elvis want to accept that reality?
because they didn't do it by themselves, right? They didn't do it without
All
the
these
white the
caveats
white
and nuances.
Americans, and they didn't do it without the
I
black
mean,
natives.
when you look at a nation, don't nobody think about all the parties involved. Like when Morocco recognized United States, you had delegates with Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson sent a letter in Arabic and got recognized. That's irrelevant once they get recognized. They didn't recognize Benjamin Franklin. They recognized United States. The first nation to recognize them was Morocco, who just happened to be above Senegal.
That's true. The United States didn't recognize them until 20 years later, until the Civil War is over, which the black Union soldiers helped win.
But it doesn't matter if the United States recognized them, long as another sovereign recognized them. France, Britain, anybody, you got to be recognized by a sovereign. But why
But it
why is it
was
so hard for the Liberian people to accept the reality that the founder fathers were of American
The reason why I am is because when Elvis's people took over, you saw what happened. It went straight to
They ate
hell.
the hearts. Why was they eating people's hearts? That's what I want to ask them. What was that? Because I had a Liberian girlfriend, and she told me the reason they ate the people's hearts was to try to get their power. They felt that they'd get your power, your life source, if they ate your hearts.
the
Like
Americos were doing that too. The
if you
Americos
look at the
were
videos,
real deep into that.
they running
You got
around with
yeah,
people's
Kofi.
hearts.
You got to show me some proof of America's participating in cannibalism.
You know, you know how some Black Americans are. They want to get deep
They
into the
always want to. They
rituals.
always want to
Kofi,
deflect.
you got Kofi. You have to show me some proof of American Liberians eating hearts.
Someone got arrested, right? Didn't one
Who?
of the politicians get arrested?
Who? Kofi?
That's a
Who?
good question. I would have to AI
So you,
this.
so you don't so you don't have the answer, Kofi. You just say you don't have the answer. Let me pass the answer. Let me pass the mic to Africa. Africa, mute yourself.
Yeah, greetings. I'm gonna be quite short because it's late here. I've been having late nights. Greetings to everyone. Brother Dinus, Elvis, Brother M, Kofi. And most of all, the special guest. She been narrating some very interesting, stories about Liberia, which is quite similar to Sierra Leone. Oh, she's gone. But yeah, what she was saying about the abolitionists in Boston, like how, some of these people who left Liberia, even though those American Liberians who went back to the US, who actually managed to work with elites in the US, to help, you know, um, the abolitionists and work together. It's very, very much, familiar story to what happened with the Sierra Leoneans as well, the Creole who came to the UK. They work very close, to the
Hey,
British.
Africa, our host is back. So let me pass the mic to Willa. Go ahead, Willa.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It looks
Okay.
like I got disconnected. Somebody called in. But anyway, I would like to just address a couple of things real quick. Elvis, I really respect Elvis's viewpoint, and Elvis does have some points that I'm kind of in sympathy with. In terms of like as far as and again, I keep saying I my direct information and what I grew up with, it's only refers to my family and the people in my group. I mean, in my social group. Like even though I'm 100% American on both, like there's only a few of us left, and they're all my age or older. Because at the time when we were born in the 50s, like between the 40s, I was born in 57. Uh, we lived in certain communities together. So in Louisiana, there may have been maybe 300 people and people married families that they knew, like my family, Roberts. they married people who were called Brown or Stokes, or these were all people from Louisiana. Like certain names I hear, I know. So these families intermarried, and this was their community. That's what they knew. And my grandfather had a 200-acre farm because my grandmother's side, they had been farmers. I guess the plantation they came from, I guess he used to oversee. Uh, they had, from what my grandfather explained to me, they had like white overseers, but then the black men who had special skills, like they were great blacksmiths or great masoners, or think of like the kind of skills, or built houses. Those, a few of those men were learned how to read and write. Of course, they kept it on the low, and their particular masters trusted them. So, of course, they were still a slave, but not on the level of the everybody else. So, one group of my grandfather's father was one of those people who was over the farming and the building and stuff. So they came with those skills. So he taught his children. So my grandfather was a really terrific farmer. He bought, I think it was like 1840. I forget the year, but it was before Liberia became, before 1847, but it's in the 1840s. He got he bought 200 acres of land and turned it into farm. Now the at that time there weren't a lot of, like, Louisiana was a small town, so he had to, the one group of native people that I got to know, and because my grandfather told me that the Pele people were the most easily, I mean, what got along really well with the settlers. So they were the first, I think, the chiefs that they bought a lot of that land from, that the ACS paid. He was one of them was like a huge Pele chief from the Pele tribe. So the first tribe that, as far as their experience up the river, that Caldwell, Louisiana, Clay Ashland, that whole area there, it was really sold to them by this Pele chief. So when that happened, the chief then brought a lot of their people from Bong County, because when the settlers were not enough to do all the farming, clear the land. But I give them a lot of credit. They did a lot, but they didn't do it just with them. So the Pele, like the chiefs, would bring some of their people to, because I think there are three families. Two of them are still there from generation to generation. They're still on the land that my grandparents bought. It's still there, the same 200 acres. And they just give them a whole, I don't know how much it is that they give, but they occupy a whole side. And from generation to generation, they've been there because they helped to, the soil the land and do whatever people do. So he had everything: coconut, guava, pineapple, whatever. So, so therefore, we were self-sufficient in terms of, we didn't have to, and my other people in my family could hunt. The other people were builders; they built their own house. So, and that's what they did. So the different families that came, whatever skills you had, so the guy who knew how to build the houses would help the other people who knew how to farm to do, so they would barter their skills, and that's how they build their communities. So therefore, they married at that time each other, right? They didn't go out to marry a tribe because it was just them. The most they would do, because across the river, you could cross the river from Clay Ashland to Louisiana. You could stand in Louisiana and yell across the river, which they used to do, so they could take the canoe back and forth. That's how come my father married my mother, because it was right across. My father is a Dixon and Richards from Clay Ashland. So they came across to Louisiana to dance because my grandfather, like I said, used to play instruments and they'll dance the jitterbug and all those things. And so people will come to Louisiana to dance, for across the river from Caldwell in Louisiana. So those, again, that's how you'll see that during that time, 40s and 50s, they, and even before that it was worse, but the 40s and 50s is when they really begin to thrive and things begin to happen. They married other Americans. That's what they knew, and those are the people that were in their closest to them. Now later on, I know by the time I got to be in high school, so I graduated from high school, was it 75, 76? Around, yeah, by the time it got to be like in the middle, early 70s, to like when Tutman, yeah, when I think around the time Tutman died, I can't remember the exact year, but but I was in school. By the time that was happening, there was a whole new generation of so-called natives who have been raised in families of the Congo family, because in my family there was a whole group of them that are two different families. I call them cousins, but they're not my biological cousins. It's just that they were they worked with my grandfather on the farm. Then my grandfather helped to educate their children. Their children became educated. Some of them came abroad to school, came back, and some of them, they called themselves Roberts, my grandfather's name. So they're my cousins. But they're all educated. They all have either businesses. Some of them were in government. And you will know, people would say during the war, actually, they called some of them Congo, and some of them got killed, some of the men. But they're not ethnically Congo. It was just that they grew up, and my family sent them to school. They graduated school in in Monrovia, and then some of them got the opportunity through contacts to get to come to school here. Some of the HBCU, one of the guys even went to Harvard, and these were all people from the Pele tribe that were connected to my grandfather, and then through him, they became part of our family. So that's my experience. And I know it's not just me. There are other people that I know who had people from, like, my experience was with Pele tribe. And then my second experience of people with the Vi tribe, because my father was sent to build a road from Cape Mount. So I think I was in the fourth or fifth grade when we got there. So therefore, I was in Cape Mount from the time I was in fourth grade, while my father building the road, my stepfather, until I went to Kanala Academy boarding school when I was in the ninth grade. But I would still come back home to Cape Mount. So that's how I got to know the Vi people, the Vi culture, foods, and everything. So those are the two tribes that I'm quite familiar with, and I got to know. I did not ever meet anybody from Nimba, but all those other places until I went to Konola. When I went to Konola was the first time I met people who were Mano, Gio, any other crew, all those tribes. I had never met anybody like that. So, and I'm sure there are other people who come from up the river, depending on their family, that had the same experience as me. So by the time you got in the 70s, the things were changing drastically, very drastically. There were quite a few natives, again, who had grown up with the so-called Congo people, had gotten the opportunity to come abroad. At that time, the government gave scholarships. People would come abroad and then they'll come back home. I remember these men used to, oh, if I can think, I would try to think of some of their names, because there was two of them that used to be on the radio. This one guy was from Lofa County. He carried his name. He was popular, but he had been raised by some Congo people. He came to the States, did broadcasting, and he went back and he was on ELBC. He was uh what you call he was from Lofa County. I forget his name, but he used his name, his real name. So, and he was very popular. And by that time, people in his generation, because I was like high school now, 10th, 11th grade, going to 12th grade. And so these guys now had graduated from Cottonton and LU. So they were in the generation above me, right? So, and a lot of them came from native tribes, but then they had grown up in uh, uh, Congo's homes, and they were able to get those opportunities, right? So, and I know I never say that I think that the Congo people were perfect, that they didn't know all settling situations. If you look at it, there's always tension because you have these people coming, but you have to remember the people coming were in distress. They were slaves. They have been slaves. Even those who weren't slaves, even they may have been free, but they were in America in a desperate kind of situation. They had no freedom. They had nothing, and they didn't know Africa. They just knew vaguely. But the reason why I respect them, because even not knowing where the heck they were going, they had nothing, only the funds that the ACS and the other abolitionists have put together to charter the ships, and then the money to buy the land.
if I can ask a
Yeah.
question, sorry to interrupt. Now, the people
Sure.
make it seem as if the ACS was just this powerful conglomerate or
No,
organization.
no, the ACS was just one branch. There were three groups of people that put together. And now the ACS didn't do it out of the goodness of their heart now. The ACS main objective was to get rid of blacks, send them back. That was their objective. But they just couched it in a political sense because the ACS was actually funded by men who today we would call robber barons or the billionaire, that class. And some of them, they had different reasons, right? For example, like Joseph Jenkins Roberts, if you look at him, he looks almost white. So his father was a slaver. He owned plantations and stuff. But and this is why it's tough to talk about this because people say, well, a slave master having a favorite female slave that he had kids with, it was under duress. Yeah, kinda. But human beings are complicated. So you have situations where some of these men had children, were different women, but then they had a favorite. The one that they had for, a favor for, if they had sons, they would take the son, bring them up to New England here, to the Quakers when they're little, and they will get an education from kindergarten to high school level. Then you know what happened? That same African meeting house that I'm telling you about, then they'll have professors from Harvard come over to the African meeting house and teach them college level stuff. They were very educated. So these men, it was like a conflict. So even though they had this thing going on with slavery, but for some reason they had that I can't explain. They wanted these sons, have sons of theirs, they highly educated. Who do you think wrote all of the songs and the established the government? These were the children of these white men that have been educated up here in New England, who they couldn't go south. In fact, some of them, they had to be uh, 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 some sort of black, I don't know if I can call them militia, but they were black men who were free, came from free families. And up in the Berkshires, there's an area up in the Berkshires, because when I went up there, that they had all of this African American community of educated, mind you, black men and women, and they were middle class and they were richer than a lot of the whites in that area. They own land. In fact, some of their ancestors are still on the land. They own land. They built their houses. If you see the houses in the beautiful homes, and these were black people in the mid 1800s. but they were educated, but they were pretty much biracial looking, practically white, but they were funded and educated by their so-called slave masters. So, I mean, it's just complicated. But these are the people that were the most educated class of the people that went back. So these men, they knew, they had studied that. They really knew Africa. They really knew the story. They really were educated. And then they had white allies. So the men that was funding the ACS, some of them had the idea was, we want, these people cannot stay here generation after generation, and they won't be able to, we don't want them in our society. So the whole idea, it was supposed to be this huge back to Africa gradually. They said probably over 20, 30 years, to get rid of all the black people and send them back to Africa. That was one group. Then you had the group that were the real abolitionists, and they really believed that the a black man, especially an educated black man or black woman, would not have a productive life in America at that time, that they were restricted. So this was the view that Frederick Douglass, because at first he couldn't read and write, he taught himself. And then these are the people, these white men started, white abolitionists started introducing him to other people and stuff like that. And he started writing books and giving speeches. It wasn't, how did he accomplish that? With the help of white abolitionists who really believe in the cause. So that's how he got his footing, because he would not have accomplished so much without the backing of these men. And so then he used that opportunity, and I think to the best of his ability, to help his people. He helped to organize this whole back to Liberia and or wherever they were going, Sierra Leone or wherever they were going to decide to go. He was a part of that, but he himself never went. There were middle class educated blacks who were interested in helping, but they themselves said, well, they are in America, it's all that they know, and they didn't want to go. And then there were people who were enslaved that had their master, because there were some slave owners or what the plantation owners, they weren't all successful. There were some that were at top of the chain, but then you had some lower class white people, or regular, that had two or three or four slaves, and they were being they were trying to at least sell some of their slaves to make money. So the ACS would offer these people money to buy their slaves, give them their freedom so that they could, if they wanted to come to Africa on the ships. But like my grandfather told me, he said that there were about 90% of the people that were enslaved at that time that they approached from Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, and all through the South, Virginia, 90% of them declined, because they said they didn't want to go on the ship and die, and they didn't know where they were going. And they heard that the Africans were savages, and, they would eat them, all kinds of things. So only 10% or so, mostly men, but there was a few women who really, wanted to take the journey. Because, and I, to be honest, I kind of understand they were afraid. And then some of them said they'd rather die a slave than go and perish in Africa. But then, too, the 10% said, I'd rather take the chance and see if I can live as an independent human being with my own, controlling my own life, and developing a society for myself. So, and people criticize them for saying, oh, they came and they brought their American. What else did they know? They came from the plantation. All they knew was that was what they learned at the plantation, what they knew about government, what they knew about everything they knew was based from their white masters and the so-called American Southern, mostly Southern American culture. So that's what makes Liberia so interesting and unique, because these people brought the Southern culture and the culture they had made for themselves, which was unique. And then they combined it with the some of the, especially from the Pele people, the Vai people, and the tribes they came in contact with. They combined it. So that's why we have these, we well, I call it interesting mixture of food. So we have some food that kind of looks like Southern American food, or sounds like it, but it has a Liberian bend. It has a different, this different thing bent. I mean, that's why our jollof rice is different. It's not like other people's jollof rice, because it's a mix of what the African American kind of rice thing, and then we added so I think we're very unique on the continent. And I think we don't give ourselves credit. And a lot of, especially in West Africa, those who know, Liberia was huge. When these countries were going to fight for their independence and go to the UN, or was it the League of Nations? It was Liberia, because it was the only real nation that would go to the UN and speak up for Ghana, Nigeria, because they had no voice. So the Americans did that for the other West African countries, and that's overlooked in the whole. The then new Liberian country and government was standing up on paper. I mean, where it counts, like the UN, like you said, Germany recognized other European countries help, not just the United States. And that's another thing that's missing. There were people in parts of Europe that fought also to try to keep. That's why the other countries, France tried to take, in fact, they took some of the land, and France and other countries, and Spain. But Germany and I forget some other nation, they kind of put a stop. They kind of blocked them along with the United States Navy. So Liberia was kind of had this a little bit of protection, but it came from the tenacity of these people. These people reached out to these governments. Of course, most people didn't listen to them, but at least they had a seat in the League of Nations, and they could talk for other Africans. So that's what I look at. And I do have sympathy and empathy for the natives, for their experiences. So there are experiences on the native side, and there are experiences on the American side. But I just think that we make a dynamic combo if we can just put together the whole history of arguing and just build. Because Liberia was booming. It was the country that was shining on. The Jacksons, different African American groups would perform. All kinds of things were happening. We had the best hotels and stuff. But the war destroyed that. And that's the thing that hurts me, because it didn't have to go that route. We could have had a coup, and we could have had a change of government without destroying the civilization that we built. So that's the sad thing. But I do empathize with Elvis's point sometimes. But I am a optimistic Liberian. And I am like, I am a Liberian, even though I don't know what tribe I come from. I'm gonna go do my DNA. But I never thought of that. It didn't matter to me. I just saw myself as a Liberian. But now I'll go and do my DNA and see who am I connected to.
All right, let me pass the mic to Kala. Let me pass the mic to Kala.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kala.
Oh
I
shit,
was
Kala.
speaking, Dinus, but you cut me off. Well, I would just wait for Carla.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, what's up, Sister Willa? Long time no.
Hi.
I missed you. I thought you were going to be in Liberia
No,
in
I've
um
No,
in
I've been
March.
going through, I was going through some serious neurological,
Oh, yeah,
mysterious
I'm glad you're
illness.
better.
Yeah, but they finally found out They probably put a name to it, so now I know. They say I have Meniere's disease. It's like the grandfather of vertigo. You know how people who pass out and stuff, but except that Meniere's is genetics. They say it comes down through the mother's side.
Right.
Yeah, the part of your brain that it controls your equilibrium. For some reason, they don't know why, but occasionally it'll just swell up and then put pressure on your eardrums. And so as a result, the pressure throws you off. Like you'll just pass out, you'll be weak, no pain, but you'll just feel like you're having seasickness for weeks. Yeah. So you can't really move, you can't really, and you just fall for no reason. Yeah. So for years, that was happening to me, and they said, "Oh, you just have vertigo." But then last year, this Indian doctor who had studied Chinese medicines and other things, just out of I had gone to all these other neurologists, and they all like throw their hands up. And fortunately, I went to her. I sat down. She just opened my mouth. She looked in my mouth. She looked in my ear. She said, "Your ears are perfectly fine. Your eardrums are fine. Your mouth is nice and pink." Because she said, if you just and then she said, "What you have is a genetic thing called Meniere's, and it was discovered by a French scientist because his mother and grandmother suffered from this debilitating thing where they would just be fine and one day they'll fall and they couldn't balance and then they'll get better again and then a year will go by they'll be fine and they'll just and so he studied it and he was I think it was they said like in the early 1900s or so he finally got recognized, and he's a French scientist called Meniere. So that's why it's called Meniere's. So that's what I had. So I would just be, it's just you're just like out of it. So and there's no cure. But if you know what it is, there's physical therapy, the type of diet, your exercise. So and I've been doing pretty good since I discovered how to deal with it.
Right. That's good. What I
Yeah.
wanted to say was the topic of enfranchising the native people. And I want people to understand something. I want the best for people, all human beings in Africa, the world, everything. And native Liberians are no exception to me. You know, they're human beings, they have rights and everything. But like you said, the people who built the civilization, right? They got to be in the driver's seat for some time before they could pass it on. It's called, you know. And whatever it was, I think Tolbert was a very fair man.
Hmm. He was.
Most of the cabinet members were native Liberians. Only 2% of the people executed in Paul were American Liberians.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So therefore, it seems to me it wasn't so much as native Congo, Khmer. It was like more like educated, progressive,
Correct.
modern versus
Correct. Yeah.
traditional, right?
Yes.
And the thing about that is this: when you have a situation where people want to rule by fiat, that means I'm this group. You got to vote for me because you won't have representation. That's wrong.
Right.
In a modern society, you base everything on pluralism. That means ideas,
Right.
ideologies, philosophies. You know, people might be communists. Some people might be capitalists. Some people might be federalists. You know, these are pluralistic ideas, right? But when society broken down to no matter what your philosophy, you don't have a philosophy. It's just what your
Just your
tribe,
tribe. Right. That was
tribal.
the huge divide. The thinking of the native was like my tribe.
Yeah,
Amana, I'm Dio, I'm Crew. So if
you
I'm a
cannot run. You
crew man,
cannot run a nation. You can't
right,
run a
right,
modern republic like that. That's not. That's
mhm,
not gonna happen. So Tolbert,
right.
when given a chance to, like they said, Elvis says, well, the native could took over the city of Monrovia Corporation. Okay, let me tell you something. At the time, remember something, Monrovia, the city corporation was responsible for the Maserati group of companies. They're
Mhm.
responsible for the airport. They're responsible for many basic things and services that Europe, only the best of the country. And Liberia was just such a small country. Only a few people had the expertise to do something like that. So I
Correct.
don't think they were ready to
No.
hand that over, or the city would have collapsed. Right. So they
Hmm.
said, no, not just yet.
It
But
was just the reality. It was just reality. And
yeah,
the natives were not majority were not not that they're intelligent, but they weren't Western educated
yeah,
to
they
handle
had to
a
be
modern
well
society.
educated.
So, but those who were fortunate that aligned themselves with some of the African American churches or schools got their education, and through getting their education could elevate themselves. But this is what happened, not with everybody, but with most people that came from a tribe and then came into contact with Congo people, they became Congo people. I'm just
Yeah,
telling you straight.
I
The
I
people that
believe.
I call cousins and stuff, they became Congo by default. They just came in, whether their name was whatever. Nobody forced them. I know not in all of my family, the people now that go by Stokes and all those names, they came from different tribes. But you won't know because they've been living in Louisiana for generations. So eventually, some of them married a Congo woman or something like that. And then they had their children and they were living like Congo people. So unless you knew their history, everybody
yeah,
thought they were Congo, and they
yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
tell
and
you they
I
weren't.
noticed this
So
when I was
that
over there last time.
I,
Hey, can I,
to be
can I,
honest, there were people that I thought were Congo, but then when the war happened, then all of a sudden they said they were a tribe, and I didn't know.
hey, can
See,
I ask you a
so there was
question?
that too. So there were all, of course, I don't fault them. Everybody wants to progress. So and in Liberia at that time, language was in, forget language, diction. It was very important that you spoke with your Liberian accent, but you spoke correct grammar. You wrote correct grammar. You presented yourself, the ladies as a lady, and the man as a man. Manners were very important. I went to home economics. Was taught since I was 12 years old how to run a house and be the proper wife, how to
But
set
Sister
the
Willa, I
table,
had this
how
argument with
to, when
some
you go out,
people.
how to
Hey,
speak,
excuse,
how to approach your husband. I know it sounds really quaint, but that is how we were raised. I'm talking about the so called Congo people. It had nothing to do with finances because most of the Congo people were just working people. But the culture, again, that they brought from the South, a combination of their different forms of
Etiquette.
denominations, which were mostly like Methodist, Baptist, I think
Mhm.
some of them
Did Congo
Lutheran,
people
and
have
those, right?
anything to do with Congolese
Baptist,
people?
Methodist, Lutheran, kind of. Yeah, that was
Did
most.
Congo
There
people have
weren't
anything to do with
Catholics per
Congolese
se.
people?
Catholics came later, but the group that came, they came at Methodist,
Uh-huh.
Baptist, Lutheran,
Did
and
the Congo people have anything to do with
what's
Congolese
that church?
people?
I don't
African
think the lady could hear
something
anybody.
something. Yeah. So then they
You can.
created, I guess here in Black America, when they created their denomination. Oh, if somebody can remind me what the big Black denomination is, then that group also they established
The
churches
AME Church,
in
the AME
Liberia.
Church, AME
So
Church.
it's the Liberian story is
Maybe she
just
can't hear
complex
anybody.
in that way,
I
and I
don't think she
think
could hear anybody.
every new
Hey, Dinus, you
society
probably have to mute
forming
her
have
for a
their
little while to
She's
tell
complexities.
her.
just
But I
talking.
just try to have people
Willa, can you Willa,
remember
can you Willa, can you
these
hear us?
people came from a traumatic
Willa. She
background.
can't hear us. She can't hear us.
All they were trying to do
No, she
was
can't.
survive. So
Mhm.
the first 40 years is them, the first group of people toiling the earth, cutting things, building the town, building the home, building the schools. That was the first 20 years. So they got there 1822. So say 1822 to 1844, right? That was what they were doing, building from the ground up,
Dinah,
struggling.
some of us on the talk box,
Then
Yeah,
after
she's
we
those
don't
just
have.
20
going
years,
on.
then they had children now that
I
are
don't think she can
getting
hear
into
us. Let
their
me
Just going
20s and
on and
stuff.
on.
And
I'm just
those
gonna call her. I'm
children
gonna call
then
her.
had to build up on what the original people had. They were more educated, they were more free, they had a different mentality. So
Yeah,
it
we gotta
took
talk about
them
that
that long
educated
to get to that point. Just look at the time frame.
Negroes.
Anyone could have been educated. Any indigenous
Yes.
when Peter went
Oh, she can hear
into
him.
running, right? When King
William,
Peter was
can
hiding.
you?
Oh, guys, so hold on. Let me do this. Kadoe, ask, you can ask Willie your question, then I'll pass it to
Oh,
him, then Shaw. Yeah, Willie, you didn't hear us, so we were you couldn't hear us for some reason. We were trying to ask a question. Kadoe,
hold
go ahead
on.
and unmute yourself and ask the question.
All right. Even though it's like I came
I can
later
hear.
during the question section. Well, I actually wanted to make a comment. I don't know whether I'm if it is only question, but if it is, if it,
Make you got a 30-second comment, then you can and then you can ask a question. Go ahead.
all right. The comment I want to make is this. You know, the natives have different issues with the American Liberians. Everybody have their different issues, but my school of thought that I come from is this. You know, Liberia was stolen by America, and America sent their former slaves to go and manage their stolen property. So that is a fact. It's not just a school of thought. So, and when they came to manage America's stolen property, they were put in charge as masters of the land,
Well,
and the natives were
how did they steal the land? How did America steal the land?
America stole the land through an organization called the American Colonization Society.
Why,
That was
why
a
I, need- I,
sign
I, I I need
of
you
the American of the.
I need you to be specific. How did they steal the land?
Okay, just give me a chance, Dennis. Let me go straight to the point.
No. But man, how did they steal the land? That's just help me out. How did the ACS steal the land? That's all I'm asking.
The ACS fought so many battles. They killed a lot of natives and took a lot of lands. And
I need proof that the ACS were going around killing natives and taking land. I need you to source. I need
for
sources.
example,
Go ahead.
for example, the Battle of Crown Hill, the Battle of Crown Hill. That is a proof to that. They fought the natives to take that land.
The battle of what?
The
Specifically, name the ethnic group they
the
fought. You have to name the
the
group.
Battle of Crown Hill.
Okay, was
Okay.
it Bassa? Was it a confederation? Was it the Vi? Who was it?
You know, you already know the ethnic groups that
No,
are there.
because there was different native groups and they weren't all together. So come on,
Yeah,
the day
but
fled from the Gola. So don't you think the day King Peter formed a truce with the American Liberians to fight the Gola that was chasing them? Come on,
no, but I want to
there's
ask
more
you.
context to
Wait,
that.
wait, 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 wait. If you go somewhere
Oh,
and you go with weapon to fight some people and you manipulate others and ask them to join and you are in fact
I'm asking you.
even though the
You're not talking over the guest. I mean the host. Who initiated this battle of Crown Hill?
the Battle of Crown Hill was initiated by the American Liberians.
That's not true. That's not true at all. That's not true at all.
All right. The first of all, do you know what happened when they came? The first thing they said was this. They said these people are strangers. That was what they said. And you know, it's good to think both ways on that aspect. It's not just one way. Let's say, you know, my issue with America, I don't really, my main issue I have is with America. I don't really have issue with American Liberians. I have an issue with American Liberians too. Don't get me wrong, right? Because I see them as they work along with America, but at that time. But my main issue, my main person the main enemy I see behind this whole thing is America, because America solved and the back to Africa problem the wrong way. You don't just before you bring certain people back to a place where their ancestor was, you don't bring them back to a place where do you know like you need to there are certain things you need to do. I don't want to take a long time to explain because I know because of the time. There are certain things you need to do to make people to come back to their home. You don't just bring people back and just dash them like that and start killing people,
You
you know,
just
to
don't
take them.
enslave people and sell them to the Americans. It's the same. It works
But
the same way.
are you aware that there were blacks in America that enslaved other blacks?
Oh man, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Everybody have been victim of slavery
They
everywhere
Nah,
around
didn't
the
have
world.
the
we
power.
Everybody.
They didn't have a power to maintain the region, so the Americans took it. Let's move on.
No, it's not about that. Listen now. If you want to justify evil, then you don't need to cry
You
victim in
wasn't
America
united.
No,
because
You
no, like,
wasn't
like, like
united.
Kadori. Like Cal said when she was on last week, the main root of a lot of these conflicts were the abolitionists versus the slave traders. Who were the abolitionists? Who were the slave traders, Kadori?
I understand for a fact that is yes, African had their negative parts. And
Okay.
the negative part that African play, that negative thing they did, it occur everywhere around the world. Europeans enslave Europeans, Asians enslave Asians,
Right,
Africans enslave Africans.
Kadori, do you think if free black slaves arrive at Providence Island and they see locals collaborating with white people in selling slaves, how do you think they're going to react?
But the first thing is this: people do certain evil things sometimes when they don't
Oh
have
man,
certain
oh
understanding. I
man,
come in. Wait,
oh
wait,
come
wait,
on,
wait, wait. I come
Kadori.
in.
Come
Wait,
on,
wait. I'm
man.
coming. I'm coming.
Who
I'm
were
coming.
you, the
That
slave
You
or the
that
missed.
in
You
slave
fact
missed
trader?
it.
Which one
that
were you?
that
Come
history of
on,
You
that
man.
missed it.
I don't. First of all, Dynasty, I don't believe
Come
that
on,
history.
man.
That
You missed your
history of them
opportunity, bro.
of saying that they
Come
saw people
on,
selling
man.
Who
slaves
you
See,
for
would
which
have
they
been, the
killed them.
slave
I don't
or the
believe
Your
that.
slave
answer
trader?
was
Kadori,
wrong.
and Corey, and that's the problem when we have this Liberia argument. It's just a certain demographic of people in Liberia refuse to acknowledge what was going on when the Americans showed up.
No. That is not
And
true
and
on
Would
my
and,
you
and,
part.
have
and, and,
I
been the
am willing
slave
to
or the
learn.
slave trader? Which
and,
one?
yeah, I
But
just asked the question, Kadori. Who was the abolitionists? Who were the slave traders?
the abolitionists were some white people who
Oh,
said
come,
they
oh,
wanted
come
to end
on,
slavery
man.
in
Oh,
America.
man. Come on, man.
Am I lying? Am I lying?
Everyone was enslaving each
Who
other.
were the backbone? Who were the heads of the abolitionists? Weren't the head of the abolitionists white nationalists?
They were the earliest abolitionists that arrived to Liberia were black free slaves.
The black free slaves were not abolitionists. I know that history very,
Oh
very,
my,
very well.
come on, man.
Let me tell you,
Kadori, come
Dynasty,
on,
the
man.
ACS was not even organized by black free slaves. The ACS were organized by white nationalists. Go
Hey,
just do
look,
it. Just
this
go right now. If
reminds
you think
me
I'm
of the
lying, just
book
put it up on Google so we
Invisible
can see it.
Man. They refuse to give black people their prestige. Abolitionist is a
No.
prestigious term,
If
and
you
you
want to
refuse
say
to
that I'm
accept the
refusing
fact
to
that
say the
black
truth,
people were
now
abolitionists too.
we have the
You.
internet now, right? We are no longer in the
Okay, let me tell you
18th.
what I got from
Just go
AI
on
about the
Google right
Battle
now.
of the Crown Hill. This is what I got. It says, who was involved? The battle was direct clash between two primary groups: the Marico Liberian settlers, colonists. These were African Americans sent to Africa by the American Colonization Society, ACS. So those are your abolitionists. They were led militarily by Elijah Johnson under the colonial administration of Jehudi Ashmun. The
Yeah,
indigenous
Ashman.
African tribes involved were a combination of roughly 500 warriors from the Dey, Vai, and the Mambambasa ethnic groups. Why did they fight? The primary triggers for conflict were land disputes and deep cultural tension. The local indigenous kings expected the newly arrived settlers to submit to traditional African authority, while the settlers continued to expand their territory and encroach on indigenous lands. The outcome and historical legacy. All right, so that's the basic of it.
All right. So when you were just reading that, I remember you come across a word called colonist, right? So that make you to understand that they were free black colonists or former slaves colonists. Others called it free slave colonists because they were sent by the ACS, which was created and backed by the American government. That's why I say the ACS was a
And
psyop.
my thing
The
is this:
ACS was a psyop.
if I can say this, how can a black American who was sent from Africa encroach on land they came from allegedly?
But first of all, you know the question you should
If
ask
we're
them:
from
why
Africa, how
is
can
it
you
that
encroach
Bro,
on your own
it's
land?
the way
one
they
of the questions you
came.
should
It's
ask is
not that you
this?
just return to Africa any old way, and just because you're from Africa, you can just come back anyway.
So why
No, they
would they
can't.
tell us we
Yes,
Africans if they tell them we don't? Where is the land?
What do you mean?
yes.
Where's the land? The
All
land
right,
is
Where is
Liberia.
the land that we came
all
from?
right. So we are learning, right? Yes. Yeah. So
I
I
don't know
thank you
what you're
for that
talking
point.
about.
The point that you brought about just because you are from Africa, you can just come anyway. That is
This
I
guy
read it. You know, like
sort of kind of
that
became
is the
the
truth.
guest.
That is the
Yes.
truth. You can just
Well,
because you are from Africa doesn't mean you should just come any kind of way.
Well, I think
There
we
are
should take
ways,
the
there are
whole
procedures.
Africa.
For example, the Spanish and the Portuguese. Let's say you have some an alien race, right? Come and buy Spanish,
I
Portuguese,
mean, if you
Greeks.
was participating in
I'm coming. No,
slavery
just
and
I'm
then we
coming.
got
Please, I'm coming.
freedom and we had the
I will soon
chance
be
to
done.
get revenge on you, what do
I
you
will soon
think
be
we're
done.
gonna do?
They buy these guys and they carry them to the West and they brainwash them of their culture and their roots. And when they are at a certain point in time, though, that alien race want to carry them back to Europe, but
but that was created by the
they
African
just carry
chiefs
them back
selling them in the first
to
place.
the British Isles. They just take them back
That
to the
was
British
created
Isles
by the African
and
chiefs selling them in the
Hey,
first
Dinah,
place.
can
So
I
who's
ask
responsible
the
for that? The
question to
just
the
African
take
to
them
the
back
chiefs.
to
to
the
the
We
British
got
to the
Isles.
guest?
And
Willa. Are you with us, Willa? Are you with us, Willa? Willa, we don't hear you, Willa. Can you hear us, Willa? Willa. Okay, she can't hear us.
The
Um,
African chiefs created the Americo-Liberians. They created that freedmen class who came back. You sold them to the
that's not
whites.
true. Come
You
on,
sold
man.
them
Come
to the
on.
whites,
You are
and they
seriously
came
saying this
back and they
online? I
sat
don't
you.
believe
I
you are
mean,
saying
that's
that.
karma. They came
Yeah.
back more powerful because you That's sold them to karma. them. If you would have kept your own labor and built a better Africa, modern
Right.
Africa, you wouldn't have to have the settlers come
You see,
over
you see,
and teach you.
But two wrongs
you
don't
are
make a right
analyzing this
either.
You
thing
traded with
you
the
are
Europeans
analyzing this
for
thing
thousands of years. You
No,
should have been
if that's
ready.
the
your way,
case.
You should have been
you
ready, and
stop
you
being
wasn't ready.
emotional.
You felt
You see,
you
Dinus,
slept on them and you lost,
that's the
dude. You
issue I
lost.
have with discussing with
You
It's
Dinus.
lost.
not. Hold on. Let me speak. It's the
That's the
Shah.
issue
One
I
minute.
have with discussing this thing with some of these guys. They are too emotional.
I'm talking. Shah. When you gave the I guess some of the factors that contributed to the this battle.
Uh-huh.
Did you say trade was one of the reasons? Trade
All
route.
right. Let's see. I don't think so. It says who was involved. Why did they fight? The primary triggers for the conflict were land disputes and deep cultural tensions. The local indigenous kings expected the newly arrived settlers to submit to traditional African authority, while the settlers continued to expand their territory and encroach on indigenous lands.
Traditional African authority means slavery.
No, it doesn't.
What does it mean?
Man, come
No,
on.
and two things can be true, which is that they may have been selling slaves, and the African Americans got there, and they got there with a mission and a directive to take land and develop the land. So you going into a
It sounds
place
like
where you
you an
take a land.
apologist.
No, I'm saying if this is I don't know the
Did
truth
they
of
That's
it.
why
not
I say
AI
these
doesn't
guys
have to
accept
are
be
the
always
right,
emotional.
settlements?
but I'm
Stop being
saying that
emotional
did
Did
they
they
and
not
not
behave
accept the
like
accept
idiots.
what they're
settlements?
settling?
Let me see. It's just the issue I have, Shaw, is when we get to some of the root factors of why we had this cultural class. Whenever we bring up the slavery part, here comes the deflection.
Mm.
That's the part where I just um that's the problem I have. Like you imagine, Shaw, we show up to Nigeria, and as we exit Murtala Muhammad Airport, Madam Tinubu is shipping slaves through that same terminal. How are we gonna react?
Right. I mean, that's enough right there.
You know what I
But
mean?
let me tell you something.
That's the problem. You know that I have with this whole situation. I mean, he brings up the battle of what was the battle,
The
Shaw?
crown
Crown
battle, the
Hill,
battle.
Crown Hill.
Yeah, Crown Hill. But Kadoy, what was the Port Crescent massacre?
You said what?
What was the Port Crescent massacre?
The Port Crescent massacre. I'm not
Yeah.
well. I'm not
Okay.
too
So
much aware of it.
Shaw, do me a favor. Look up Port Crescent massacre, Liberia.
Okay.
Yeah, look it up real quick on AI.
I mean, you could look up every time the indigenous people attacked the settler
Right.
repacks.
And Kofi, and that's where we're going. Look up Port Crescent massacre, Shaw.
Okay, I'm doing it right now.
Port Crescent massacre, Liberia. Why you do that? Let me read the super
It
chat.
says you're
What-
likely referring.
hold on. Let me read the super chat. FBA Young Lion, thank you for 499 holla. It's interesting to think that the American Liberians have produced more consecutive presidents in Africa than most African ethnic groups. Marie Shy 333-999. Thank you for 999 holla. Wishing you well, Sister Wylla. Wishing you complete healing. FBI Young Line, thank you for 999 holla. The native Liberians are still sacrificing humans and selling slaves. No side is perfect. Also, when Samuel Doe and Prince Johnson took power, they oppressed other tribes worse than the Americans. That's a fact. All right, Shaw, go ahead.
Okay, so it says you're likely, I spelled it wrong. So it says you're likely referring to the Port Crescent massacre, which took place June 10th, 1835, in what is now the port city of Buchanan, Liberia. It was a lopsided, violent conflict between newly arrived African American settlers and the indigenous Bassa people. Port Crescent was established as a new colony in 1834 by the Young Men's Colonization Society of Pennsylvania, a Quaker-led branch of American Colonization Society. Because of their pacifist Quaker beliefs, the society intentionally left the newly arrived Black settlers unarmed, believing that a peaceful approach would foster good relationships with the indigenous population. Attack. The settlement's presence severely disrupted the local economy, specifically the lucrative transatlantic slave trade.
Repeat, Shaw, repeat that again.
The settlement's presence severely disrupted the local economy, specifically the lucrative transatlantic slave trade. A local Bassa ruler, King Joe, who relied heavily on Spanish slave traders for revenue, saw the anti-slavery colony as a direct threat to his business. Taking advantage of the fact that the settlers had no weapons to defend themselves, King Joe led a force of Bassa warriors to attack Port Crescent. The warriors killed roughly 20 settlers, looted the buildings, and completely destroyed the settlement. The surviving colonists were forced to flee to nearby Edina for safety.
All right, go ahead, Kadoy.
All right. So you know that point you just brought out. You see, your former their former masters that they came from. Their former masters were also part of this slave culture. Those days, slavery was practiced everywhere around the world.
Oh,
So
man.
if we were doing a bad thing, I'm coming. If we were doing a bad thing, I'm coming. Just give me a chance. No, I know this is the show, but you don't want me to explain.
It's my show, Kadoy. So, did the Americans have the right to defend themselves when the local population were still participating in the slave trade?
Yes, you said themselves, but they attacking America. They attacking the native that were into the slave trade, and they attacking it. That is not themselves.
Well, see, the thing is, Kadoy,
those are the slave people that were selling. I'm against that. I'm against that. Listen, I'm against that.
You're missing my point. They didn't initiate the attacks. The indigenous population attacked them.
All right, so Dennis, first of all, if a group of people come to your territory and you don't want those people in your territory, so is it wrong for you to tell the people to leave?
Hey, so Kadoy, if I go to these people, we sit down at a table, we make an agreement, we sign a deal, they say yes, and then they want to come back and renege, that's a problem.
So, but do you have a historical account of that, of they and the people making an agreement and they come back? Because what he just read, there was nothing in what he just read that shows that.
I'm just gonna be on here loud. Shaw just read what happened at this battle of whatever, and it said that they had an agreement.
I listened to those. I listened to it word for word. And the thing is this: if the word for word, what I listened to is this. One thing that is, they said they wanted them to submit to their traditional rulership. Why they said that? It is because those people, the natives on the ground, they never saw those people as their brothers and sisters just because they look alike. They saw them as black people who are coming. They saw them as black strangers who were in their land, and those black strangers that were living in their land, they were probably going against some of the traditional laws. And the thing is this: I understand for a fact that yes, that when people come back, especially come from a more advanced society, like civilized, one way or other, you might want to put things in place, but that is not the way you do things like that. First of all, the people that you came to, you got to know. You can't just come to people who in our land. Let me tell you, not just in Africa alone, but around the world. If whites in America now decide to go back to Europe, the English will go to England. The Italian will go to where the Italian settlements are. The Spanish will go to where the Spanish settlements are. So a white man cannot just go and he's of Spanish descent. He just goes straight to the Anglo. He go to the British house. Then he start to want to impose his will on the English people.
Kadoy. These people had agreements that a lot of these chiefs reneged on. I mean, Kadoy, I give you a prime
They
example.
had agreement, but you also saw that they said that they were not submitting to the traditional rule.
I'm talking. I'll give you an example of present day in Ghana. You have no idea the amount of land that returnees buy from chiefs and chiefs renege on it. It still happens to this day. Am I right, Kofi?
You're right, absolutely right.
It still happens to like
because they want more money.
They come back, they renege. We want more money. Or then you'll have the locals to say, "Oh, the chief wasn't supposed to, sell this land." Like land disputes are like the number one disputes in all of Africa, and so I am pretty sure it was going on back then. They made an agreement, shook hands. The chiefs later on came and reneged, and they're using that. Well, you don't want to integrate into our society. Well, which society? Bassa, Crew, Mandingo. Like, which society are you referring to?
All right, so
I pulled up this information on AI. Check this out.
Can I ask a general question?
Did the African Americans have an agreement to the settlement? Did the African Americans have an agreement to settle? And how did they disrupt the slave trade? Listen to this, y'all. It says, yes, the African American settlers did have a legal agreement to settle, but the negotiation process was deeply controversial and heavily contested. The initial arrival of settlers disrupted the local transatlantic slave trade through a combination of geographical blockage, anti-slavery laws, and direct military enforcement. The settler agreement, peaceful coexistence, or coercion. And then how did the settlement disrupt the slave trade? Now, it goes into that, but I won't go, it's too long. But how did it disrupt the slave trade? Despite the United States and Great Britain banning the transatlantic slave trade in 1807 1808, Spanish, Portuguese, and local African slave traders continued a highly lucrative illicit trade along the Liberian coast. The arrival of the African American settlers shattered this economy in three ways: blocking key trade ports, geographical monopoly. Local kings relied on coastal lines to meet with European slave trips by purchasing and settling critical coastal hubs such as Cape Mesurado and Port Crescent. The Americo-Liberians physically built fortifications and towns directly on top of the traditional slave markets. Slave ships could no longer anchor or dock safely without risking conflict with colonial militias, enforcing anti-slave treaties, partnering with the U.S. Navy. So that's how they disrupted it.
In other words, the American Liberians fought to end slavery intentionally in Africa.
Right.
It seems like that's what the mission was.
And that's my point. That's why, when people like Kadoy come on, like, I'm like Kadoy. Listen, it was the app. It was the people who wanted to end slavery. It was the people who wanted to end
slavery. You know, some of the American Liberians enslaved some natives, right?
What they got to do with anything?
No. You say that they fought to end slavery in Liberia, but one of their leader, Charles D.B. King, have you heard of the Fernando Po history about the amount of Africans that Charles D.B. King took from Liberia and took to Fernando Po Island?
He said Charles Taylor.
He collaborated with chiefs.
You say he what?
He collaborated with chiefs and crew labor voluntarily went.
He was
crew labor voluntarily went as well.
If he was so righteous and fighting to end and stop those chiefs from doing those things, why did he collaborate with those chiefs? And then
it wasn't. But Kadoy, it wasn't slave. What happened on Fernando Po wasn't slavery.
Charles D.B. King is of African stock.
Charles D.B. King. That was slavery. If you think I'm lying, just go and research it. Go on Google right now. The fellow who was reading it, I really wish he put those things on screen so we can see that he's saying the truth. Put it on screen now and research it.
Was very lucrative because
I'm not gonna lie.
He just read something that said that the American Liberians intentionally blocked the ships and the ports to stop slavery. I had no idea that happened.
Yeah, and that does directly disrupt the profit of the Bassa people.
It was military strategy.
Yeah, so they did do that
You
intentionally, and
know,
some
Yes, and
it
all of
Dynasty,
caused
Europe
Dynasty.
it caused the war.
colonized the African continent to
Yeah, well,
do
they came
slavery
and
in the African continent. That was the whole point.
okay, but
Dynasty,
they didn't have no
Dynasty, you know what?
guns, and they got fucked up.
Colonialism wasn't slavery
No, that's not.
because
And I
It,
never said
well,
Yes, it
colonialism.
it
You
was
was.
and I,
almost as
you don't
bad.
want to hear me. You no,
slavery
no,
going
no,
on.
no, no. I never
Colonialism
said colonialism.
was bad.
I said slavery. I said slavery. There are lots of natives that talk that say that during Charles D.B. King time, there are a lot of them who do forced labor without being paid. A lot of natives have account of that in Liberia. Here, they
Why
have
would
their.
you be as a slave trader think you deserve to get paid?
Now you talking, yeah,
Why
no,
would
Now
you
bro.
you
why would you
talking.
think as you were selling
You
slaves
see,
for
you
hundreds
see,
of
Two
you
wrongs
see,
years
you
don't
see.
make a
and you all
right.
of a
Now
sudden
you
want to get
now you
paid?
see
Two
now
wrongs
you
don't
see
make a
now.
right.
I mean
Did
punishment, part of
Spain
punishment.
Spain
If you
No,
enslave
lost the war,
Liberians?
that's not your call to punish somebody because of that. No,
man, if somebody got to get what do
Spain
you think a
controlled
war
Fernando
is?
Po.
no,
A
no.
The
Spain
war is
controlled
so-called
Fernando
righteous,
punishment.
Po. Spain
the
controlled Fernando
so-called
Po.
the
Did
so-called
Spain
righteous and miracle
enslave
Liberians that was trying to
Liberians?
enslave it
Did
so much
did
in
did the
Africa
Spanish enslave Liberians
because of
on
trauma.
Fernando Po?
Even though some of their black brothers and sisters was enslaving other blacks in the states
Did the
before
Spain
they could come back,
enslave
they
Liberians
came back
on
instead of them
Fernando
I
fighting
Po?
their black brothers and sisters in the states to stop slavery.
I just find it interesting when Shaw reads about stopping the indigenous population from stopping the slave trade in Liberia, and that's part of what the cultural differences were. In fact, that was the main cultural difference in Liberia. And again, it was the abolitionists versus the slave traders. You completely deflect to one story of a black American who bought his family out of slavery so they won't be enslaved by white people.
They weren't
It's
even known as
hilarious.
black Americans in the first place because at that time I think they were just called free blacks because at that time many states in America never gave citizenship to black people.
Hey,
They
Dinus,
were
can I
just
ask a general question? Because I wanted to ask this to the
But let me
guest.
do this. Willa, are you still with us, Willa? Willa, you still there, Willa? Okay, I don't think Willa can hear us. All right, go ahead, Em.
all right, Dinus,
Oh,
Dinus.
the general question. Hold on.
There is one more thing.
This guy's the new
There is
host.
one
I
more
mean, the
thing.
guest. I mean, but my general question was this, right? Do y'all think that Liberia can be salvaged, and do you think Black Americans have a right to probably try to salvage it?
Black Americans, first of all, black Americans need to save themselves. Black Americans are even they themselves are not even safe. Black Americans are in a worse situation
That
than
architecture
Africans.
in Monrovia is incredible, but it's just abandoned. It's just sitting there.
No, but America is owned by white people.
I'm talking about
America is
Liberia.
not your nation.
Yeah, that's we were no, bro. That's them. They need to do that, and if we can
What do you
come
mean
back to
them?
Liberia in the right way, come in a way in
What
which
are you
is
talking about?
productive.
Them.
I'm talking about African Americans coming back to Liberia in numbers to
But
help.
what if that was the problem in the beginning? Instead of Tubman and them and Tolbert and them trying to integrate with the natives, what if they should have been trying to bring more Black Americans in?
No, I think they didn't go in. I mean, I didn't know the
That's
history
the
about
problem.
them
Don't come
stopping
back to
the
Africa as
slave
black
trade,
American.
but
Come back
I
to
think that
Africa as a lost
And
relative wanting
you
to
have
come back to
no
unite with
say
his
in how a
relatives.
person come back to
That's how
Africa.
you should come back. No, I'm educating you because probably you don't know about it. So I'm teaching you. So humble yourself to learn. So you don't come back to Africa as a black American. You don't go back to for
Let me
example,
ask you this:
my
when you come to America, do you come as a Nigerian or do you commit to completely assimilate and forget about your tribe?
no, listen, it depends my purpose in
So you're
America.
making this, you got double
If I'm
standard. You
going
got
to
a double
America,
standard. But my question
listen,
was
you ask a question, so
not to
give me
you
a
per
chance to
se,
answer.
but I was just asking in general, not to the apologist guy
No,
who was reading
but
the
even if
history.
you ask in general,
Do
the
y'all
answer I'm
think
giving
that?
is also
Do y'all think that
is a
Americans?
subsection of general.
I'm not.
The answer I'm giving is a subsection of
You got a
general.
double
That's why I say it
standard
depends on my
because when you come
purpose
to
in
America, you
you
America.
don't
don't have a
abandon your
right to
tribe.
go to any African country and try to run shit or do no.
I'm not saying run nothing. I'm saying the country is
You
dilapidated.
could
All of that
run shit
architecture
as
is
far as your
vacant.
money goes, as far
Upon
as the
The thing
invitation,
capitalism
is
being
they
this:
invite
rendered.
you.
I come in. The best
That's
thing,
the thing.
you know,
A modern
Did Samuel
rules.
Doe get an
Are you
invitation?
ask them? Are they? You ask them? Can you come and help? And they say,
These are
yeah,
the
we would.
modern rules, bro.
They're gonna tell you how they want you to help too.
In
No, I don't think
capitalism,
they
there's
got
no
that right because
rules.
for
In
one,
capitalism,
What do you mean
for
they ain't
one,
got
they
it
didn't
right?
start Liberia.
It doesn't matter. They're the majority of the
You
people.
just
That's
an
their
apologist,
country.
man. You don't have any spine.
That's their no. That's
You're the
their
weak dude.
country.
it's a country
That is
because the
their
That country,
formerly
land.
enslaved
listen,
came
Their
that
back and
land
made
country,
it a
mass.
country.
listen, that country was established by Americans,
uh,
free
and
black
and
Yeah,
slaves. It
and did they
wasn't
have a
started by
choice?
yeah, yeah.
Did the
Liberian slave
Liberians have a
traders.
choice?
That country was established by your
It
by your
was
master.
established by
It was
a
established
free
by your
black
master,
people.
and your master sent some of your
Who's our
relatives
master?
there
Yes, and the
as
country stands
managers
today.
there.
And the
Who's
country
our
stands
master?
today.
Who's our
Your
master?
master is the white man.
The one.
The one who was enslaving us, and that
I
when
mean,
we were.
regardless of what you're saying, the people that
Your
set up
master is
Liberia were free
your
black
master
people who was
your
abolitionists.
master is the
As
white man,
far as like
and the white
rhetoric, as
man
far as our
the
master,
white
you
man
know,
Selling
created that
slaves to the
country
white man
for
makes
your
There's
you
relatives to go
things
a
to
and
learn
manage
on
slave.
it.
both sides
The
of
thing
this,
is this,
y'all.
we
this
want
apologist
the
Pan
natives.
African
There's
We
guy,
things
that
to
in
learn on
Africa,
both
we
I
want to
sides,
think he's
unite
one
with
of the
you guys,
biggest
but the way
problems
you guys
because
are coming is the wrong way.
hold
bro.
on,
You
hold
We
on.
Not
want
the
to
I'm
wrong
just
unite
way.
with you,
How
babbling.
but
they
you
were
guys are
sent off
coming the
is the
wrong
wrong
way.
way.
This
How they were
apologist
sent off is
black
the
guy,
territory
wrong way.
and thinking
he
that you're
has no
gonna
spine
start.
because this guy has no spine because if a black American set up a country
We
and
didn't
built
set
a
it up
country,
though. The United
they
States
built
set
the
it up.
country. Who
The
built the
United States set
The
up the
United States
country.
didn't
listen,
recognize Liberia
The
until 20
United
years
States
later.
set up the country.
The United
regardless
States
of
They
that,
didn't
weren't
recognize
colonial
Liberia until
settlers.
20
They
years
set it
listen,
up. Black
afterwards.
Americans didn't do that.
listen,
Liberia wasn't recognized
So
by the United States
let's
until
start with
20
that.
years
who
It
afterwards.
doesn't matter. That
who
The
doesn't
built
United
matter.
States
Liberia?
wasn't recognized by
That
Liberia
doesn't matter.
until
Who
yes,
built
it
it?
does matter because it was an
Who
all
built
black
it?
government. It
With
was
Who
an all
built it?
black government
with
for 20
regards
years
to
without the
who set
help
up the
of the
This
country.
United States.
apologist guy.
Without the help.
Who built
Wait,
Liberia?
wait,
Was it the natives or was the Americans?
It was the natives. They
Kofi, I
got
want
put
to
to
tell you
work.
something. We are
Who
just talking
designed the
back and forth, but
architecture?
I want to say something to Kofi, please. Can you just give me just a second? Kofi,
The,
you know, the last time somebody said because the United States never recognized Liberia, it means that so and so Black Americans did this. They were the one that established the country and they did some
It was the
things.
natives
One thing
too.
I want
The
to let you
natives
know is
was in the
this:
government
this
too.
all apologist
the
Negro keep talking.
country Liberia had a colonial period and a Commonwealth period, and it was the ACS that were running the colonial period and the Commonwealth period.
Until
So the American
1847.
colonization, so it means it was America that was running it. Do you know
We
why
got
America never
Until
recognized
independence.
Liberia?
1847.
We got
America never
independence.
recognized Liberia because America was angry that their former slaves decided to break away and form a country and made them
Because the
angry.
free blacks
It
Look,
was
look,
not
the free blacks was
because
in the
look,
of
government.
listen.
look.
It was not
Liberia
because
is
I'm coming.
not a native.
America,
Like
I'm,
the
I'm telling
natives
you the
had nothing
reason.
to do with it. They was selling
Kofi,
slaves
please
on the
give me a
coast.
chance. I'm
Okay.
telling
They
you
was
the
selling
reason.
slaves. They didn't
America
have a
was
country
angry.
there.
Can we hear him? Because
America,
I'm learning something. Because I'm not learning anything from you. Go ahead, bro.
Kofi,
You're
Listen,
saying
Kofi.
that
Yes.
the Black
I,
Americans broke away from the United States and formed the country of Liberia.
exactly,
Yes, from
exactly.
1847 to
Okay, that's
That is what I'm saying.
1863.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they
From
broke away,
1847 to
and because they broke
1863, they
away,
exhausted their
and because
monies and they stopped funding it and they left. They all the white agents and governors died and they left. It was ran
why did they leave? They
independently
left because they were
by
angry.
black
They left because they were
Liberians.
angry.
Good,
Liberia, let me tell you,
good.
Liberia was not
Look,
named by Black Americans.
the
Liberia
natives
was named by
destroyed
white
that country.
nationalists.
These people like Elvis and CD, they family
Liberia,
destroyed that country.
the rivers in
That
Liberia was
architecture is
named by the
dilapidated.
rivers were named by
All of
white
those
nationalists.
structures, all of those
So
cities he
that's
built,
to make you to know
they
that the
didn't do
American
anything with it.
Liberians, their masters, are
See,
the one
but
that
this
own
is where I
Liberia.
have to say that well,
They
you're
did
going
nothing with
in.
it.
Okay, we heard you. But here's the thing that I have to say about development is that when you talk
Oh,
about
you want a
development,
grocery store? Oh, you
you
talking
want to
about
talk?
building the
Go ahead. I'm
grocery
gonna let
store?
you talk. Go ahead.
You talking about we get your money together, open up a grocery store? That's all you talking about. You ain't talking about building no country. Your
Okay.
mind is like you got a slave
All right.
mentality, man. But I was
Okay.
asking people,
All right.
when we go back to Africa, should we focus on countries that we already had success in and somehow move those natives, move them around because they seem to not know what they're doing. They were just most satisfied with
Do
getting us
you
out the
know what
paint,
you are doing? Look who's
Move them
talking. Look
around.
who's
move
talking.
them around because they ain't
Man,
doing nothing.
that's pretty hilarious. Look who's talking.
You
Do you
try
know how
moving
to
them
Like a
govern
big
around.
yourself?
fat chief trying to get some money on land.
I know. Are
You
you one
move
of
them
those that
around
come to
and
Africa and
get
act
what
fake
our ancestors built.
like you are civilized?
No.
Are you one of those?
You don't know nothing about
Because I know a
civilization because
lot of
look
you
what you did with
there are a lot of
Liberia.
black Africans that are more civilized than
You
a
have
lot
built
of black
nothing, man.
Americans.
You have built. You want Monrovia, but you didn't do nothing with it. It's raggedy. Them beautiful buildings we
Monrovia.
built over there is dilapidated. I saw the pictures.
Those are European buildings.
133 years,
We built. Black
and you
people
have
built
nothing to
those
show.
buildings.
133
Yeah,
years.
but
For
they
man,
came
come
there with
on.
a European mentality,
From
Man,
Terry.
you was a
1847,
coon,
from
man.
1847 to
They went there with a
1980.
European
You was
mentality
a whole
The
coon.
and a
I
slave
can't
whole
get up
trade,
out of here.
caste thing.
selling slaves
This
to
is what I
whites is a
hear.
European
What
concept,
I
is it
heard
not?
was that the African
Selling slave
Americans
is not European
had
Right,
concept,
the
Selling
Kofi.
slaves
Africans got the
European
Selling
European
slave is not
mindset.
European
whites,
European
concept.
selling slaves to
mindset
In fact,
whites
because they
is
were
a
slavery,
European
educated.
mind state.
The Africans got
Wait.
the European
Selling
Because
no,
the
slaves
mindset.
to
thing,
no.
whites
the
is a
sister,
European mindset, and
Kofi,
the Africans
I used
follow
to
that.
think that you were educated, Kofi, but you are
wait, say that
disappointing me.
Selling
There
again.
are some things you are
selling
talking.
slaves to whites is a European concept, right? Is that what you're
Kofi,
saying?
I
No,
think you
not
are making me to
necessarily.
think that you are not
Not
educated,
So
Kofi. You
necessarily.
are
stop
making
giving
me to
all the
think that you
credit
are
to
not
They were
educated.
Europeans. Stop
selling
giving all the credit to
slaves.
Europeans.
They were selling slaves in
Kofi, what
Africa
are you
before
saying,
white
bro?
folks got there.
Stop giving credit of the
Slavery
Black
was happening
Americans
in Africa before Europeans got there. They were
themselves. There
doing
was
that.
free will. You're trying to
Right.
Slavery was in
So I'm
Africa.
saying
Slavery
it's
Europeans
was in
not
Europe.
free.
this.
Have you
I
heard
had
of
a
the
hard
Slavic
time with
people?
Stop.
that.
You're giving
I had
credit
a
to
hard
all of
time
them
with
as
that.
if they're the only
No,
humans that could
I I'm not.
um
I'm not. I don't even know what you're talking about
have
because I'm
a
talking and you're talking.
standard
I
for
can't hear you.
themselves. You're saying that they have a European mindset. Is the
No,
slave trade that the
I'm
Africans
saying if you're
participated in?
educated,
Man,
what I'm saying is
don't
that if you're
flatter them. They don't
educated
have
by
a
Harvard,
European mindset. They
hold
don't
on.
have European
If
mindset.
you're
Don't flatter them, bro.
educated by Harvard people or
They don't have
in the
European
regular
mindset.
institutions in the United States, you're gonna be miseducated.
They don't have European mindset. Don't flatter them. They don't have European mindset. Do you know what I mean by saying they have European mindset? You are making them too big. A lot of these guys, not all of them. A lot of these guys live fake life, you know, and some of them, like what the last time Kofi said something. I know I was in Cinco the last time in Monrovia. There was this American Liberian lady who insulted a taxi driver because she never has transportation to pay the man, and she called the man country. So do you know what I told her? And she dressed like a prostitute. I told her, I said, look at you. I asked her, I said, are you civilized? I told her, I said, fake woman. When I call her fake woman, just how some of these blacks in America sometimes gets angry. She got angry just like she must burst. She wanted to jump on me. I told her, I said, you are just being an emotional fool. You are just living a fake life lying like you are civilized. I said,
Bro,
there are a lot of you
you
guys are
talking
not
about your
truly
own
civilized.
people. You talking about your own people, please.
Why me?
So
No,
That's your
no, but it is
people.
the
so
truth.
That's your
It
what's
is the
there
Liberian
in
truth.
people.
this?
Don't
It
mix
is
them
the
with
truth.
us,
She
please.
So
insulted
what would
a
be
native in
different?
Liberia. She
Hold
insulted a
on.
native.
What could have been done differently so that that Liberia would have been successful? I mean, all the
Liberians
way.
should have kept their slaves and built up a country before the black settlers could come back.
Liberia should have
Liberia should have
kept their
kept their slaves.
slaves.
Yes.
Were we
What do you mean
Liberians
kept their
Should have kept
enslaved?
their
We were
slaves?
not
slaves
Liberians.
and build
I
up
come in,
the
Kofi.
So you
the Grain
mean not
Coast.
enslave anybody at all? You mean not
Yes.
sell slaves? Okay, because when
Yes.
you say keep slaves, you mean they would have had slaves themselves.
Yes. They had slaves. Yes, they had slaves. They
So
they
they
should have
should have
kept some of
engaged in
them.
slavery and built their own country up, is what you're saying.
Yup.
And that is a solution. That's a something that could have been done
Yes,
differently.
because it didn't do
Okay.
that, the Europeans then came back and colonized entire Africa and said, "Look, we're going to enslave them in Africa, and we're going to extract all their
Yeah.
mineral resources." That's
How about
exactly what
they do
happened.
it without slavery, though? How about they built
You
up the
can't do
country without
anything without
slavery?
slavery, bro. This it's the eight.
Uh,
You're talking about the
uh,
1800s. Come on, man. You
Kemet
gotta
did.
work. You gotta
Kemet
work,
did.
bro.
No,
The
but
reason
you don't
why
have
the
to have
United States is the
slaves
way
to
it is
build.
because of slavery.
No,
That's it.
but you
That's
don't
simple.
have to have slavery to get people
Someone
to be
has to work,
nationalistic.
bro. Someone has to work.
Okay, but people will engage in nationalistic endeavors if they believe in the cause. They don't have to be enslaved. So, what kind of mentality are you
This
talking
is
about?
not 2026 you're talking about. You're talking
No,
about
I'm talking about in Kemet. They built. How
1865
do you think the pyramids was built? The pyramids
slavery.
were not. No, it wasn't. And that means you're not educated if you're saying that the
I
slaves
don't want
built
to
the
be
pyramids.
educated, bro.
Okay, well then
It
we
was
can't have a
it was manual
conversation then.
labor. It was
I'm
manual
good.
labor. It was manual labor.
I'm good.
The aliens
If
didn't
you don't
build
want
it.
to be educated,
Kofi,
Educate us.
it was a nationalistic
Kofi,
endeavor
I
that
want to tell you
built the
something, Kofi.
pyramids.
Are you listening? Kofi.
I'm listening, man.
One thing I want you to know is the natives, we know that we don't, there was some bad culture and some good culture among us. We never wanted the American Liberians to submit
Are you from
to
Nimba? Are you
Can you
Ma?
let him finish? Are you Gil?
Yeah,
Can you let him
I'm for
finish?
Nimba. I'm for Nimba. But
So
let
so
me let
say
me
your
let me say on
Can
this.
we
specific
hear what
ethnic
he's
group.
saying? Can we hear what
Say
he's
your
saying?
specific ethnic group.
No,
Bro,
but
can we
listen,
go ahead, bro? Go ahead.
Regardless of that, the
Because we're
different
all
ethnic groups
African. We're
already
all
know
from
this.
Africa.
They
We're all from
regardless.
Africa. Say
Bro,
your
he's in the
I
middle
specific
of
know that.
ethnic
talking.
I
Can
group.
you
know that.
allow him to
I
finish?
know that. I know that, Kofi. But let me tell you something, right? That's what I said. I said we read Africans desperately want to unite with the diaspora. You guys are not in our hearts. We really love you guys. We really want to unite with you. We don't have anything but for you, but just love. But the only problem is just the way you guys come. That's the only reason. That's the only problem we have with you. The way you come to Africa.
How did
That
you
is a
come to the
problem.
US? How did
Yeah.
Liberians come to the US?
I went to the US as a
What does that
foreigner
have to?
and we accept
What
our
does that have
reality
to
there as
do?
foreigners.
You guys was
But when you come back to
quiet.
Africa,
You
we
guys
don't
were
want you to come back
quiet.
to
What does
Africa
that
as
have to do
foreigners.
with how we
You
came to
didn't make
We,
a
Liberia?
we don't want you to
sound.
come
You
back
didn't
as
even make a
foreigners. You are
sound. You was
coming back as
nice.
black Americans. So if you come back as a black American, then it means that you are simply trying to tell, there's a in my thing, like in my tradition, the man people will say that if a person, a family member who you have not seen for many years come to the house and they behave like a stranger, people will treat them like a stranger. And you
Except for the
guys came back.
Lebanese, except for the Lebanese and the other Asians.
No, the
I guess
Lebanese are
I
very
guess
much
if
treated
they
like
could just
strangers.
bring their
Trust me.
So,
money, I guess
No,
they
so
just
no,
bring
they
their
are
money
treated
and
like
do
strangers.
whatever.
I know they have. Listen, I know there are some rich Lebanese, but trust me, we don't see them as our own. We
so,
see them
so,
as
Kabi,
strangers.
Keto, how should African Americans have come to Liberia that would have made a more sustainable and more long-lasting relationship?
You know, the mistakes that the Europeans made in yeah, by brainwashing you guys of your lineage. What they should have done is this. And if the blacks want, especially this time around, where technology is easy now, and we have ancestral DNA, all of that. So just imagine there are people that can be sick, but if they are desperately trying to solve their solution, they can get well. One more about getting to know your lineage. Let me tell you, any man that is very desperate to know his lineage in Africa, he will know it. It is not possible for a man to be very desperate to know his lineage and he cannot know it. So the only issue there is this: you guys need to have the faith, and when you're coming back, come back with the thought of, I am coming back to connect with my people. And when you're coming back to connect with your people, don't come back as a black American. No. If you come back as a black American, you are telling us that you are coming back as a stranger. And when you come back as a stranger, we will definitely treat you like a stranger. And we treat you like that will be the problem. That have been a problem for records ages from the 18th up to now. That's why even in Liberia, the natives and the American Liberians, they are not united. I'm telling you for a fact. You might think I'm
So,
lying. Just go and
so,
ask.
so you're saying that we came miseducated to Africa, and that was the big problem right there. And as a result
Yes.
of coming in with that mentality, with the colonial mentality, it just was the recipe for setting up a caste system and not a good relationships, for the longevity. That's what it sounds like. What you're saying?
I
Yes,
agree.
part of it.
I
Even though,
agree.
yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I agree. For ultimate survival, you're supposed to assimilate. Your names should have been changed to the ethnic group of your region, and I believe the Tolbert would have survived if his ethnicity as Americo was hidden. Right?
Yeah, because we saw, listen, the thing we
They would
just
have
want to
survived.
see, because the fact is we know that you are our brothers and sisters. But if it's, your name is I don't know whether your last name is Kofi or something, right? Let's say your last name is Kofi, right? You can your people, you can stay away from your family for a long time, then you come back tomorrow with a last name of Woods. Even if you are living among the people of Woods, but while you are living among them, you don't live among them as one of your own. You live among them, like as in a segregated way, like you want, like you are different. You got to come. You need to assimilate.
Right.
You need to
And
assimilate.
but and for us, it would have been really, in a way, repatriating would have been us coming back into the knowledge. I mean, basically, we should have adopted the names and culture of the people and added our own whatever like our skills and different things that we had learned.
Yes, yes, yes.
But yeah, and so this is the whole question of Afrocentrism, because as a Black Studies person myself, we learn these things that are works against us, and the more healthier model for us is to learn our culture, learn our history. We understand that we're African Americans. I'll come to Liberia as an African American, and I may change my name to something that's gonna be Bassa, whatever, or maybe Yoruba or whatever, right? Or Congo. Y'all got Congo people. I guess they're from Congolese. So
Yeah,
we're from
there
those
are some
people.
people of Congolese descent there, yes. But
We,
Yeah.
we have
you
we
know,
have to have some nuance, because a lot of chiefdoms, you got King Peter, you got King Friedman, you got Joe Holland, you got Samari Torre, right? You got Africans with Muslim influence taking names, taking Arabic names, and you got some chiefdoms that had great trade with Europeans taking taking on their names. This was the invent of surnames on the African continent.
Hmm.
So Americo Liberians coming back and doing trade with these chiefs that could speak English kind of saw like, hey, King Peter could keep his name. I want to keep my name so you could know that where I came from.
uh, no, not
Well,
You
totally like
can't you
that.
can't
Let
really
me tell
erase
you,
people
Kofi,
because it's
Kofi, why you saying Kofi?
convenience.
Let me tell you something today,
You
Kofi.
can't erase what people went
No,
through because it's
no traditional
convenient.
leader. Chuck Kofi. Let me tell you something. I'm not just a native. I know I know a little of traditional things, even though I grew up in Monrovia. What? Let me tell you what I know about some traditional thing. It is no traditional leader will be leading traditional people in Liberia and don't have a native name. Even if you
Of
adopt a
course,
name,
they have a
you must
native
have a
name. Of
native name.
course,
You see, Charles Taylor. Charles Taylor name was what? Dark Manner. That was why the people embraced Charles Taylor, because Charles Taylor, he had a native name. So a person cannot call himself John, Peter, and Lee, the man people, the bastard people. It's not possible.
that's how
In
they
fact,
stood
those
out.
people, they will, yeah,
That's how they stood
they
out.
will. uh So that is the reason. And another thing to make it very good for you guys is this. I know it's a tough thing to like, but there's a possibility in finding, for example, in finding who you are. The ancestral DNA tests, there are some that are frauds, and there are some that are very, very that can be very, very accurate. So when you are coming to Africa, try to take the best one among among those ones.
hmm
And when you go there, like, seek for it with faith. Believe with that you will find your people, because one of the things that make or man is it is a kinsman that inherit things among his people. That's one of the things around now. It's not just in this parable, it's not just in Africa, it's around the world. A member of a kinsman, or it is a kinsman that inherit things among his people. If you are not kinsman, you cannot be part of an inheritance. So if you coming back to Africa, one of the best and easiest way to make things very easy for you is to do the ancestral DNA test, to know your kinsmen. As long as you know your kinsmen, you know the family that you are from. Because if, let's say, you go to a village, you have several cultures. Let me use Liberia for example. They have the villages in Liberia or Nimba. Let's say you go to my village, but let's say like 50 years ago, a man, or 70 years ago, a man left the village and he had children out. But his children came back into the village, and some of his relatives are back in the village, but his children, they don't know those relatives that they are related to. Even if they live in a village there and they adopt something, the people will see them. Yes, they will say they are citizens. They will consider them as an adopted. Even though they will not, they know that they are from there, but they will view them as adopted people, because still they have not shown the person there that they are related to. So if those children come back and show the people there that they are related to, they will no longer see them as adopted people again. They will know that they have
I'm
100%
sorry.
legitimacy to that
I'm not.
place?
Well, that can be done through
I'm
ancestral
I'm of
stuff
I'm
too.
of eight. I have eight different. I come from eight different countries in West Africa. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move forward. My daughter is half Fanti, and she has also like 15 other ethnic groups in her because I come from different countries in Africa DNA wise, and so do Idris Alba. So I'm going to say I do not have to do that because my DNA and your DNA is as unique as it wants to be. You can you
But which
right?
one you have the highest?
You
Which one
don't
you have the highest
decide.
percentage in?
You don't
What?
decide
Which
who
one? Which
I
one
will
is your
be.
highest percentage?
I will.
Which one is your highest percentage?
I don't. It just says Mali, and I'm not going to Mali, bro. I'm gonna
Yeah,
meet
yeah,
who on
yeah.
the
No
coast.
problem.
Wait,
Yeah,
I'm
no
gonna meet
problem.
who's on the coast, and I'm gonna impregnate who's around me, and they'll
What
go
what
from
what do
there.
you resonate most with when you come in contact with these different cultures, either through art or through
I
whatever?
eat a lot of bitter cola nuts, right? So bitter cola nuts says my DNA is from the Sahel. I can't get malaria, so that
Huh?
means
The Sahel is so large.
bitter cola nut comes from the Sahel. It grows in
They
these
have it in
warm
Nigeria
climates.
too. They have it in
Okay,
Nigeria.
so obviously Mali says I'm a northerner, right? And then I can't get malaria because my people is from South Carolina because the mosquito spawns in the rice fields. So I can't get malaria. So that means my people
You said
was
rice
on the
field.
Grain Coast.
Did
Yes,
they? Did they?
So you're immune to
Did you
malaria?
see Sierra Leone?
yes.
Did you see Sierra
Maybe
Leone
a
in your
Sierra
DNA?
Leonean. Come on,
Did
brother.
you Did you see Sierra Leone in your DNA? I want to help you, Kofi. There in West Africa, in the whole of Africa, there's only one region in Africa that rice grow, and it's West Africa. But in West Africa, there's a specific area in West Africa that are really known for having rice, and that is the Upper Guinea part of West Africa. So if your people that was taken to America were rice farmers, then they are from the Upper Guinea parts of West Africa.
But the
Mhm.
second one is
But there's
Nigeria. I
also
mean, the
Mali
second
too. That
the
could be kind
second
of
one is
Mali too,
Nigerian.
probably.
The second the most percentage that shows up is also in Nigeria. So it's like I could go to Mali. I
Okay.
could go anywhere I want. I
Right.
Yeah,
So
my
you're
the
all
way
of
I
these things.
think the way I think
just choose
I'm
the highest
trying to be
percentage.
in
That's all.
each country.
But he's
I'm
not
trying to
trying to
be in each
define
country.
you. He's not trying to define you. He's just saying, get into your DNA, and that's, your connection. You can connect. Maybe you want to go to those places. Maybe you don't even need to go to Nigeria or Mali. You can just go to anywhere because, Africans go around, they move around. I
I
have a
could
question
I
for the
could go
brother though.
anywhere.
Is the village Nimba, is that word Nimba? Because I know the word Nimba through this dance that they do from the Baga people. Is the community or the village called Nimba related to the Baga people?
No, no, no. The meaning of Nimba, it means twin mountain. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, because it's the right word is Nimbaton. That's the way they call it. Like twin mountain, because there's a large range there that is, but Liberia, Guinea, and Africa have. They are all the Nimba mountain range. So they just named that whole region Nimba.
do they have any Baga in Liberia?
Baga, no, no.
Okay, all right. Because they have a
So
deity called Nimba,
Look,
yeah.
like
look,
the interior
and
Baga.
to help my brother's argument, right? Yes, the chiefs, right? The confederation between the Vai, the Gola, the Day, they had the right to their enslavement just like the Europeans did. I wish you would say that. They had the right to sell slaves and they had the right to profit off the slave trade just like the Europeans did. The Europeans just so conveniently said no, slavery ends right now, but we're gonna colonize Africa. What they really meant by that was let's enslave Africa,
Yeah,
right?
and
I know, Kofi. I want to share something with you on that. I know the Europeans have managed to make people around the world to think that they actually ended slavery, but that is a deep thing. Let me tell you something. Who were the main drivers behind it? Was it the British, right? The British, America was given birth to by the British. And America is known for doing things in a way that they will do things in a way, but it will not be, it will do things indirectly. So
Mhm.
I tell you for a fact that slavery have not ended. The
It
word
didn't.
one of the way I tell you slavery have not ended is human trafficking. Human trafficking is slavery.
Hmm.
So what they did was they decided to do those things because first of all, your ancestors in the West there, your ancestors, they saw them as a serious threat. Your ancestors are also our ancestors' relatives. There's my grandmother told me that her mother's sister was sold as a slave in Liberia. Yeah, she said long time ago, long time. My great grandmother, my great grand aunt was sold as slave. So I don't really know where she went, right? But that's why as I also consider you guys my ancestors' relatives. So our ancestors' relatives that were there, you guys were seen as threat to these guys, to the whites. So that was the major reason why. Is don't let them lie to you to tell you that because they were afraid that you're going to make it, like they feel you are inferior, you coming to mix with their children. Let me tell you something. There are several kinds of white people. You have the deceivers. The deceivers are those who know the truth that black people are the rest of the world so that they can oppress black people. The next group of white people you have the foolish ones who believe that like who have that foolish pride, even though they know they are not superior than the other race, but they just through that emotional foolish pride, they just keep pushing it within their heart. That is another group of white people. So there are different types. So those white people are in America when they were taking Africans from here and carrying them to the West. They knew very well what was going on. They knew that they were not carrying inferior or animals. The people that were there, that were in the states there, those people they knew very well of those people potential. Let me tell you, the peak of white supremacists, especially the deep state and other group of white people, those guys that run things deeply, those are class A intellectuals. Those are not foolish white people. They know very well about the world, the whole world. They just made the American society to just look like this one big retarded society where a lot of people say a lot of unhinged things. But trust me, they are the one that created the culture that way because they want to create that same Greek philosophy of not believing in certain things. The Greeks only believe in wisdom. So they want to keep pushing that particular thing to make people to only have certain kind of thought. And there are a lot of things that one thing I say that black people major problem around the world is knowledge. Our major problem is knowledge. To the person that oppress you, if you want to get true knowledge, do not get true knowledge from a person that is not trusted, or person that is known to be a thief. Do not go and get true knowledge from him. If you go and get true knowledge from him, most of the time he will most likely give you corrupted knowledge. That is why most of our people we turn to white. That's why you see some of our people sometimes when they want to know about things that happen in America, things that happen, they listen to Tucker Carlson, they listen to different guys. I just feel sorry for people that just believe most of the things these guys see 100%, because these guys sometimes makes the truth with lies and they corrupt things. To cut all matters short, those people at that time they never ended slavery because they were good. They ended slavery because your ancestors were threats. Our ancestor relatives in the states were threats, and they continue slavery through human trafficking. They just lie that they were this group of
So,
moral people,
but
and
what
they
did we learn
continue
about
their same
slavery,
slavery.
though? What did we
What?
learn in Liberia about slavery, and the world has learned about slavery? That there's a karmic backlash to it because it's messed up. And so we're talking about how one group's was disrupted and the other group, so hopefully we learned something about that because that created a big problem in Africa,
I
being
would say,
complicit,
okay.
being complicit in that. So let's learn from that and move on with how we're
I
gonna
would
build Africa.
I would say that the true slavery didn't happen until Firestone came in, right? Firestone came in the 1930s. They took the contract from Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey had the land. He paid his money, and they stole his money. Right? Charles D.B. King stole his money at the the entrance of Firestone in the United States in the League of Nations,
Wow. Wow.
and they gave it to Harvard and they gave it to Firestone. All of these were white managers. Fernando Poe was owned and controlled by the Spanish, right? By white Spanish people. So I would say that there was a particular type of slavery. There was like a colonial slavery through these corporations, through these industrial corporations coming from Europeans. Um, Slavery didn't end it. It went from being going out of Africa to being internal. So that was the whole plan of the league of the um conference in Belgium, right? To enslave Africa and take its resources. What was Firestone? Taking the resources of Liberia and processing it out of Liberia in the United States and out through Europe. So I would agree that up until the up from 1847 to the 1930s, Liberia was fighting encroachment from French and the British.
So
But
should they
after the
take the land
1930s,
back and should they private? I mean, nationalize that land, or yeah, should
they
they
have to
take it
keep
back?
no, the land is they still continue to give Firestone
No, I'm asking, should
right.
they take it back like Traore took back the mines? Certain mines he took back,
They
even
should
though.
take it back and they should IPO. They should take
Okay,
it for themselves and they should
IPO
IPO.
means
Yes.
what? Publicly
Initial
traded on
public. Yes. Yes.
the market, on the stock market,
Yep. And you can see if you look, do your
huh?
research. If you do your research, Liberia is not even active in any
Why
stock
should anybody be
exchanges.
able to buy? So if it's on the stock market, then anybody anywhere can buy shares into that land, right? Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry. It's the company is now owned by a Japanese company, and they're definitely trading.
Okay. So what I'm suggesting is that they don't put it on the market for anybody to buy it. They should the country should own it. They should take it back and nationalize it and develop it however they see fit.
But after the coup, that ceased to that
But yeah,
that
but
didn't
that your
exist.
suggestion is that they take it and make it a publicly traded, anybody can buy
They
it.
should nationalize it. They should nationalize it. The country should nationalize it and start an IPO for that country.
Why
That's
an IPO when it's land and they can use the land to make profit from it, from the rubber that's being, or they could do whatever they're gonna do with it. Why
because when
why
you
did it?
IPO, you create like a Wall Street of your own, like a black Liberian Wall Street,
Yeah, the land is more
Dangote's,
important. Yeah,
just
you
like
want.
Dangote's refinery. Sure,
Yeah,
they,
but
they can create a
that's not a private. This is thousands of, I almost want to say millions of hectares. It's hundreds of thousands of hectares of land.
yeah.
So
They could create a REIT.
it's not a business. It's not a $20 billion business that this man put his private money into, and he's got a business, and he can sell his business in public traded,
Hey,
whatever.
guys, let me pass the mic. Music Con, Moose Con, did you go yet? Moose Con, Leon.
Oh yeah, no. Let me just say today that the conversation looked good. Everybody's showing some understanding. Men from the hike actually is not here today. Yeah. You see, the problem we have is I don't think the problem we have today. Our people back then really have those problems. Like the connection I saw during the Marcus Garvey time, the W.B. Du Bois, the Padmore. The problem they have was not directed to their brothers in Africa because they collaborated most of the time. The problem they had was about the people that actually created a plantation that caused the suffering of our people. And that was the case. Even when what happened in Liberia, for instance, the DB King issue or saga, when the commission came out with their result, blaming that indeed native Liberians were forced to do job that they were not paid, and all that tantamount to slavery conditions. Like Du Bois did not blame the Africans for that. He blamed the very white people that created that. They said They were trying to manipulate the system to make. In fact, they never want a black nation to succeed. His stand was why they were investigating the Liberian government, despite they were carrying the same thing, the same wrong they are doing to the black man in the Western Hemisphere. And this was the case. They never blame a fellow Africans. They blame the reason, because if there were no plantations, there would have been no slavery. So that was the cause he was complaining about. But now that 2026, we are fighting each other for something, and we are not trying to find a solution. I'm glad today, like, we are looking for somebody's asking a question to put us straight. What can we do? That's a good question. My Liberian brother tried to make it right. I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm a Sierra Leonean. And we also have, in fact, we don't have much we don't have problem. At least, thank God, we never had an issue with our brothers that came, even though he's there, but it never really showed because we always collaborate. In fact, about the name, we have one of the people that returned home. In fact, most of them took native names, like the Lamine Sanko. He was never Lamine Sanko. He had his own Christian name that he brought. Well, he took that, and we were able to work together. Nothing really happened the way. But sometimes, again, when people come, because what I understood also that when our brothers returned to Liberia, what they said, they introduced antebellum, stuff like that. And not that they didn't have their chance to govern Liberia. 102 years is not an easy period. I mean, it's not just 2 decades, for 102 years, over a century. So I think something wrong must have happened on both sides. So we can't just blame that, the native do this, the native do that. 102 years, some wrong must have happened. So the blame game has to stop. Let's find a
133.
solution.
It was 133.
All right, I saw 102. If you say 133, okay. Because I don't want to count the 1820 that it came 1822. That was not counted. I'm talking about 1878 to 1980. I'm not talking about the other one. I mean, really, when they really involved in the governance of Liberia.
It was from 1847 to 1980.
Yeah, okay.
Let's not
So,
forget J.J. Dawson was a Vi man. He was a Maxicoi. J.J. Dawson was
yeah,
the
I know
first
about Yancey. I think
Baptist.
the Yancey last name is a Crew. Yancey, they're Crews, right?
It could
The
be.
Yancey, the vice president to D.B. King, one of the most
Yeah, I don't
corrupt
know
Liberian president.
I think I've seen more than one ethnic group that use that Yancey name. I don't know
Oh,
whether
okay,
they're
okay.
just cool.
Because I have
We,
a
we,
friend named Yancey who's a Crew, so I thought every
we have
Yancey is a Crew.
acknowledged
Mhm.
indigenous involvement in the Liberian government as early as 1847, when Peter was chased by the Gola into the Monrovia settlement. We have
Mhm.
to acknowledge that, and that's something we're not
No, I
acknowledging.
think the problem is everybody must take responsibility for their own role they play because we all did wrong to each other. So if we have that understanding, we can move forward. You see, because what I know, because we argue a lot. All right, that's an African thing. Most of the friends, some of us have, we must have fight. Have when I was back home, your best friend you fight, you have an argument, maybe seriously fight before you can become friend. So what we're having, I know to me is a sibling banter. So we just have to forge forward, find a way to make us look as one, because the more they see us, because everything we're doing right now, not that the people that don't want us unite are not listening, they are listening, but this is what they want. When are we going to come as a bundle to really stand for what we're supposed to stand for? Because if we don't do that, we're going to continue like this, and we're going to continue to be funny in the eyes of those who want to see us funny. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and
All
we
right,
have
all
to
right. Let me
acknowledge that.
guys. Let me pass the mic to Major Bindu. Go ahead, Major Bindu.
Hello, chat. How's everybody doing? I've been listening to the conversation, but the key things I wanted to talk about in regards to Liberia. Both sides, I really believe, like the other brother said, were wrong. You know, first the natives on the land, they didn't honor the contract when the American came to the land in Liberia at that time. But also, what happened also is that the Americans who came, Liberians who came, where after everything settled down, they were able to control the government. And I think that's what caused the coup about in the 1980 coup, which led Samuel Doe to do that coup. Of course, with the elites, that family, that was his premise. But he used that as a manipulation to able to control, to able to really become a dictator. He didn't follow through. He used that as a premise for him taking over the government, which I really believe both sides. But the key thing in what I observed there's a documentary back in the 80s. Actually, no, the CBS. There was a CBS just a month or 2 months before the coup that talks about the Tolbert family, how the Americans family control the resources at that time. They were basically based on what they're controlling the resources, they're controlling the government at that time. But what happened was years later, that's when the people were feeling like they don't have any say. And they make sure that this is what the local people are saying at that time, based on what I've watched in the TV at that time. But eventually, Doe took advantage of that, used that as a way to get to control the government. And I'm saying, please, when I'm saying this, I'm not saying Doe was innocent or anything like that. But this is what I really believe. This is the premise. Both sides were wrong. It was supposed to be a clear. If I really believe they sat down at that time and the natives honored what the Black Americans are coming at that time, I really believe it will have been a peaceful resolution. And I feel like Black Americans, African Americans, are entitled to land in West Africa. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
All right, go ahead, Super African and Bobo Lico. Then we're close. Oh, he dropped off. Go ahead, Super African.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody, how y'all doing? Man, I, I do agree to the end. Black people that are from America do deserve some type of reparation in the continent of Africa. Particular West Africa. 100%. I do agree on that. Just like how, you know, I'll always say, right? There's something we must do as West African to uh to heal the wound that we did, the mistake that we did in slavery. Because regardless of that, with the white man and this and that, we did play a major part in it as well. There's a healing that has to be done, but it must be done in the proper way, and it must be done with the right proper leaders in Africa. I do not believe that we have the right proper leaders in Africa that could implement such a thing at all. Because at the end of the day, some of these leaders, I know the type of games that they play. Just like how I always mention, like Democrats in America pretend as if, oh, they care about black people, but they really don't. It's the same people, just like the Republicans. That's just how it is. But the other aspect, right? Just like the other lady, because I just showed up, I wasn't truly listening. The other lady, the last time that came up here, that did a wonderful job and stuff like that. Like some of my issue that I have, right? When she mentioned that you can like run what you call it, like government, with people that's not educated, right? If you came to a land like where like some of these ethnic group was already there doing their own thing, right? So which means they had their own system that works perfectly fine. So it wasn't like when they came, it was a chaos everywhere. Because when you go back in history,
Super African. They were participating in the slave trade when they arrived.
yeah, they were, but yeah, but at the same time, just like how some countries do, drugs, but they have their own way of running their own system. But what I'm trying to say is,
That you went completely over my head, Super African. Drugs, would
no,
they
I'm
have their
saying,
own system? What do you, huh?
They did
Yeah,
have their
yeah,
own
Shaw. You
system.
would, I mean, Shaw, help me
No,
out. You went completely over my head.
no, they did
Drugs,
have
daddy
their own
old
system
system.
though. Dennis, that's like me trying to, run my mouth about the Yorubas during those times. They did have their own system that worked for them. Let's be fair.
But Shaw, if I'm fresh off a slave plantation and I show up to Yoruba land and slaves are being sold, and I tell them, "Hey, y'all, this is where like I experienced this. You guys need to stop," and they're like, "Hell no, we ain't stopping." I think that's how that's going to play out, Super African.
It's not going to play out well because of what you have experienced. When you come from America, I could understand the vengeance that's in your in your blood when you see such a thing, and then you tell these people you're not supposed to do such a thing. So it could create a conflicts. Everything you said is true to a certain extent, but what I'm trying to say is as well, these people still had a system that was working properly. Beside the other thing as well, but
So why
despite
did
this
the
thing that I'm saying,
Europeans
right?
take over if it was working so properly?
Why did the Europeans do a
The
lot of
Europeans
things? They
conquered
did.
the
Because
whole
it
world.
wasn't working.
What are
Right,
you
the
talking?
whole
Like,
world.
what are you talking
No, what are you
about?
talking about?
No, the Europeans conquered the whole world.
The African
Man,
system
no,
was crashing because of the slave
oh
trade.
no,
No,
no.
Man,
no,
no,
Let,
man, that's
listen,
not true.
let me say this.
no.
Let me say this, right? By that time, right, the African continent, especially West Africa, had already been conquered probably like a couple years ago. Maybe like 50 years. We were under these people, or whatever it is, 60 or like 80 years. We were already under these people. So they had destroyed the previous system. So you understand me, right? So it's just like nowadays, with the drug system in America, in the 80s, before the 80s, black people had, system that was working perfectly fine. It was just because of drugs, that came in that you had all these other things, stuff like that.
Why did
But
the Europeans colonize the rest of Africa and Liberia wasn't colonized by whites?
Liberia
Why?
was colonized, man. Stop it, man. Man, stop
No,
with
there
this,
was
man.
no white leaders.
Liberia
There
was
was no white
colonized.
leaders. There was
Yeah,
no
but
white leaders
Let me tell you.
and there was no
Let me say
white
African.
this. No,
corporations until
no.
1930.
Liberia. Listen. Right? Okay. You put up the slave thing, right? Okay. During this time in the 50s, right? In the 40s, or at least in the 50s, right? In the 60s, right? American Liberians came to America, right? They were treated special and different from the other blacks. And then American Liberians knew their people was still being subjugated. You understand me, right? So where was the so-called okay? Well, we gotta fight for our people.
What
We gotta
people,
make
American
sure stuff
Liberians
like
do?
that.
Who was being subjugated?
Dinus in the 50s. Are you saying like black people men in America was treated perfectly fine and equal compared to white folks?
No.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So
So
American Liberians
what were
came
the
to America.
What were the American Liberians? What?
They came.
How is that
They
part of
came to
American
America,
Liberians?
right? They were treated differently from the other black people. They were treated differently from other black people, right? And at the same time, if you're aware of that, and then it's your people, and then they treat your people um in that particular way, where's the the going after the U.S. government, at least bringing something up? Say, hey, you can't treat our people like this. You gotta change this and that. You understand, right? Just like Malcolm X did, just like MLK did, right? They start, making noise, going through around the states, telling people this not fair, this and that, this and that. Where's the American Liberians? Any organization like that telling the U.S. government you can't treat our people like that? You understand, right? Instead, they came to America. They were treated separately and much better compared to the black people in America. So if you are completely independent, right? If you care about your own people, you have your own country that you control, in and out, so-called control, right? If you come to
So
America,
you're saying like under Tubman, when Tubman was ruling, or Tober was ruling, that they never spoke out against the racism in America?
even if they might just, I'm just saying this, right? But I don't see no organization compared to like they compared to the Nation of Islam, compared to MLK movement. That's what I'm trying to say. There wasn't a
It
movement
was
such a
all
thing like that.
Tuskegee. Back then it was all
No, no,
Tuskegee.
no. At that, listen. At that particular time, the white people had control of the world much better compared to right now. much more better, much more powerful compared to right now, compared to even like the last 40 years.
Okay.
Let's be fair. All I'm saying is, it's just like they did a great job of making sure, like, okay, well, we're gonna control the country, we're gonna develop certain part of the country, we're gonna control the aspect of the economy as well. We're gonna put a couple natives in certain positions as well. Just like how I keep mentioning, just like how the Democrats do, right? They might have a black person here, a black person this, a black person over here, right? But at the end of the day, whatever it's supposed to be get done, right? It's up to the white people to approve it and say yes to it. You understand me, right? That's how later on they start putting like the natives in this position right here, in this position right here. Especially if you check the history in the 70s and then later on in the 80s as well. Oh, but overall it was still under their control. It was still under their control. And
The
if we come
argument
back to
is
slavery, no, if you stop slavery, how come you didn't make the same type of movement when you come to America? You see your own people getting treated like that. There's videos, there's a bunch of videos on YouTube where when you look at these people, the way they approach the white people, you could tell who's in charge. You could tell who's in charge. That's like William Ruto and France. You could tell who's in charge. William Ruto come to America, right? You saw what Joe Biden did to him. You clearly see who's the boss. You clearly see who's
the
in charge,
bosses
who's
are
the
the
boss.
people with the most sophisticated economies, IPOs, stock
Come on,
exchanges,
No,
Coffee.
with the
Coffee, man,
military. Are
and
you kidding me?
especially
It's the
militaries, because
guns. No,
they
it
could
is the
fund their
guns, period.
militaries. Because
Are
they
we
could
It's
going to
the
fund their
start the argument
guns.
militaries.
again?
It is the
Yeah.
Are we seriously
warmongers
going
and
to start the
Why
argument?
warmongering.
didn't African nations develop like Liberia, and why did they let the question is, the
There
argument is, why
was
did they let the Europeans come in and rule
They
like that?
didn't do that. We fought off the Europeans for thousands of
You
years
can
in
you
North
can
Africa.
like
But
you
wait,
come back to
why did
the
Kofi just
scramble.
say fought like Liberia? Kofi, are you kidding me?
Liberia man,
Kofi, I'm a like,
Liberia man. One second, please. Look at the
don't make
I
me
could
laugh.
say Ethiopia.
the
Okay,
so-called
I could say
hold
Ethiopia
on,
too. I could add
hold
Ethiopia.
on, hold on. Look at the so-called scramble for Africa, right? In 18 something, right? Okay. Then they scramble for Liberia, right? Then they scramble for Liberia. There was no point of you scrambling for Liberia because Liberia was already under the United States.
Boom.
That's
No,
what people don't understand.
Did you?
it was
Was
under
Do
already
they
those
under
get
black
the
that? Do
United
they
Liberians.
States.
understand that?
There's
I
no
don't
need
think
to
they
scramble
understand that.
The United States didn't recognize Liberia until
It
1863.
doesn't matter
Yeah,
Not
in
because
this
it
one
gives Liberia
context.
not
masters. That's
one
why
In
corporation
this
they
was in
disobey their
context.
Liberia
masters.
until
That's
the
why
1920s. Wait,
Coffee.
they disobey their masters. Come on, Kofi.
This
Are you going back and
this
forth with this again?
not one
there's no way.
corporation was in
There's no
Liberia
way.
until
They
1920s.
disobey their
There's no
masters
way.
so that
They
masters
were
There's
should
no
live to
trying to
way.
stop
recognize them.
themselves
Listen,
from
listen,
Britain and France
Coffee.
encroaching
Coffee.
on
There's no
Liberia, so
way.
they seek
Listen,
military help from the
listen.
United States
Just give me
against
less than 30 seconds.
British
I'm
and
gonna be
France.
quiet.
Go ahead.
Just give me less
Go
than
What does
30
ahead.
that
seconds,
tell
man.
you?
I'm gonna be quiet. There's no way you're gonna take former Africans, right, in America, bring them back to Africa, right? At that time, during their history, right? And then you telling me they didn't have no type of help.
Of course
They
they
hold
had
up
help. Of course they
no,
had help. It was black people who came over to help.
listen.
It was
No,
Buffalo soldiers who came over to help. Go
let
ahead.
me finish.
It was black people.
And then you telling
Buffalo
me, right?
soldiers, yes.
And
Just
you
it was
telling me
who put them there? Who put them there?
they fought off the
Who
British.
gave them guns?
They fought the
United
French
States.
as well.
Who made the
And then they
guns?
survived.
United States.
Who
United
built
States.
United? Who built the United States? The slaves built the United States.
Yeah,
So they
who
get the
That's a
support from
lie.
the
Bro.
United
That's a
The
States.
complete
United States
lie.
was
The
built
slaves
off of
don't take
slave labor
copy.
that came
You
out of
see,
Africa.
The
you see,
slaves
Yes.
only
this
take
is why I
right.
So
copy.
they
said
got the
this is
support
why
from
I
the
So
said
United
this
those
is why I
States.
blacks,
said
So what
those
about it?
blacks
So what about
had
it?
an
The
no
slaves only
advantage.
take copy.
Those
Kofi,
blacks
don't
have an
lie.
advantage because they did the work.
This is why I said this is
Kofi,
They
the
why I
were
slaves
said
only
forced
take
to.
copy.
Yeah.
this is
Those
why I
blacks
said
have an
Kofi,
advantage because they did
let
the
me
work.
tell
They
you,
gained their
Kofi.
freedom. They did the work. They gained their
Kofi, we
freedom.
can research
Africans were
now.
free that
Kofi, I
whole
can show you.
time.
I can show you.
They
Africans were free
Kofi,
did
that
the
whole time,
work
and they
to get their
collaborated with their
freedom.
colonizers. They
Wait a minute.
collaborated
no
with their colonizers.
You mean they did the work as in being
Kofi.
slaves
Do
for
you do
200
you do you
years
did you
to get
hear
their freedom? That's the work they
did you
did.
hear
Kofi, I
about the
think
Mau
you are
Mau
Yes,
trying to
that's the
bring
work
society?
they did.
confusion among us.
Because everyone's
You
here
are
now.
not
You heard
from
about
the
the
You
Mau
beginning
Mau
are,
and we were
if you're
colonized.
in
saying that.
Kenya?
You are
That
now
was that
bringing
was the
confusion
19 that was
among
the
us again.
1950s.
Kofi,
Let's move forward.
Kofi, Kofi, why are you talking
Because you guys are
bringing some talking
ignoring.
points?
You guys are ignoring
No, you are
a
bringing
argument
confusion
right
among
now.
us
You're
again. You
ignoring
are
the
the one.
argument.
You are
We're
being
talking over each other.
you are behaving like you are behaving as if
The African leaders who didn't get penetrated by these
we
repacks,
had this conversation
They
today, Kofi.
collaborated with
We
their
had this
colonial
conversation. You are
masters.
just trying to be defensive,
That's
Kofi.
why they didn't
Kofi,
gain independence until
Kofi,
the
Kofi.
1960s.
I don't want to speak to you
Am I
as
right or
such,
wrong?
Kofi.
Am I right or
I don't
wrong?
want to speak to you as
You need to go back to
let
school.
me
Am
let
I
me say
right
this
or
real quick,
wrong?
right?
No, you're
Let me
saying
say
Why
this.
stuff
did
that does not even make
these
sense.
free African
Let me say
nations
this real quick.
need to gain
Let me say this,
independence
right?
in 1950s when they was
Let
already
me
the
say this.
rulers in their
Let me
countries?
say this, right? If you come,
Are you
if
Kofi.
you come
They
to
serious?
don't
the,
have to
hold
understand
on,
that yes,
Coffee,
that at a
Rebut it.
certain
Coffee.
point in time,
Rebut it.
No,
certain
it's a
advancement
straw man
and power
argument.
came and conquered, and we the history is there. We already understand. I don't know what kind of argument you're trying to bring. You're just trying to bring confusion.
The
We had
argument
a
is if you're
discussion
Yeah,
trading with the
it's
all the
Europeans,
time,
it's a
Kofi.
moot
if you're
point.
trading
It's
with
a
the
straw
Europeans
man
for thousands of years,
argument.
how aren't you gaining the education that the free ex-slaves gained to
We
come back
never
and
told
form
you
a
that
sovereign
Africans
nation?
were.
Don't
We never
sound
The
told you that
Africans
Africans were
had
more
intelligent.
advanced than
I'm
Europeans.
sorry,
an
We
sir.
never told you
advantage
that we
and
were
they didn't take
advanced
it
more
and
than
they
the
didn't take
Europeans.
it.
Did we
And
say
that's
that
affecting us
again?
today.
It's
That's
not a
affecting
viable
all of us
question.
Kofi,
today.
Kofi,
They
You
didn't take
sound
Kofi.
advantage.
Did you hear
ignorant.
us? Did you hear us preaching African supremacy here today?
I'm preaching African supremacy. Look,
No, we never preached African
if
supremacy
I
here today.
remained in the
We know
continent and
very
I was
well
trading with
Europeans have
Europe
more
for
advanced
thousands of
weapons.
years,
That's how
I
they
would have
have been.
said I'm starting my own
You
country.
would have. What do you mean you would
Yes,
With
have?
more
I would
advanced
have said
weapons.
Well,
That
I'm
was
you're
when
starting
your
my own
ancestor.
country.
You are
conquer
your
another piece of
ancestor,
land.
Why did
and when you
Then
former
was
at
in
why did
times
former
Africa,
when
you
slaves
didn't
come
do
those
back
it,
other
and start
people
their own
learn
country?
and
sir.
fight back and
You
take
are
back
your
what is their
ancestor, and so when you was in
Kofi,
Africa, you didn't do it. You were taken.
Kofi.
Your ancestors was taken because of being weak or whatever
So
you want to
how
You
call
are
did
it.
also your
I don't
so
say
how
ancestor
did they
because
being
your
come
weak,
back and form
ancestors because
Liberia
your ancestors are also
before the
Africans.
ones who were there?
but I
How did
bet
they
you
do
would say
that?
being weak. I
Why
didn't hear you.
didn't
Kofi, you are
why
also
wasn't it an
African.
oil
You are
nation? Why
because
wasn't it
if you
a
want to bring the point of you are your ancestor,
Okay,
you are also
we're
African.
all over the
come on,
place
But
now.
bro? Why
you
wasn't
are
it
not physically
a
African. You are
Ashanti
just
nation?
biologically African.
I'm about to
You
go.
are not my brother yet.
Why did it take so
Kofi.
long for these African leaders to gain independence? Why did they even need to gain
Yes,
independence? Why
because the
did they
Europeans have more
collaborate?
advanced weapons than this and then these Africans, dummy. Because the
They
Europeans have more advanced
collaborated.
weapons than
Our
these
African
Africans,
leaders
dummy.
collaborated and they're still collaborating today.
Kofi, Kofi, we know very well that Europeans are more advanced than Africans. We know that.
Not no, they not. No, they not. They're human just like us.
They are.
We're
I'm not
all
saying they
human,
are
bro.
superior human. I'm not
They are
saying they
more
are superior human.
technically
You are not
They were
understanding what
more
I'm saying.
organized.
They
I'm
advanced
not
because
saying
their
that we are
proximity,
inferior.
no.
because
Kofi,
their
They
that is your
closeness to
problem.
us.
Let
You
me say
no,
this.
they
understand the
advanced when the
English I'm
They
speaking
Africans
to.
went
advanced
into the
because the
north.
Africans helped them because we helped them.
There's a point in
let
history
me
where you can tell
let
where
me
the
say this.
Europeans advanced, and if you look at history, if you're a student of history, you know that when the Africans went into Spain, and Portugal and Spain, and they began to build those universities there and teach the Europeans, that was a point of which they started to advance. That was around the 1500s,
True that.
right?
The Moors.
And before that, you have the transfer of
Are you
knowledge
speaking of the Moors?
from Kemet to from Kemet
No, the
to the
Moors
Greeks.
never went into Europe. The Almoravids never went into Europe in the 1500s.
No, so
I
there
think
were
it was.
two
I
different
think it was
kinds
earlier
of
than that.
wait. So if you're saying when I say the Moors, I'm talking about there's a period in which some of those people were from Mauritania, from present day Senegal, Mauritania,
The word
Mali.
Mauritania
That was
I
part
think
of that was
it's
Hey,
one
a
part of the
Germanic word.
Moors' roots.
somebody's connection is terrible. Cody, that's you, Cody. Doy, that's you.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
were the people that made up the Moors. And then you had the other Moor group was the more the white Arab type that came in and they were vying for control. At one point, the Africans were more in control, and then at another point, the white Arabs were in control. And pushed at the end, they pushed the Africans out after it went back. It went back and forth one or two times, and that's where you get a lot of the advancement that they had. They built on that advancement, and that's when you find the fall of Mali early empire too, because we had universities before they did, and we were doing law and all kind of, you know, other things. We had scripts. We were doing all kind of things that they have manuscripts for. So we were advanced. We just, that's the point of where we stopped advancing. And Islam is also responsible, partly responsible for that too, in terms of our advancement.
Is
Can
the
I
idea of a monarch
please, please,
flawed?
please, 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 please,
Can
please,
someone
please,
answer that question? Is the idea of a monarch flawed in today's society?
please, shy. You know, one thing I want we black people around to know the world to do is we have to be honest with ourselves when we want to talk about the truth about our glory. We need to be honest about our glory because the truth need to come before glory. Before you have fake glory, we need to have true glory. In the past, I know there was some of us that were advanced. There were some of us that were less advanced. Just how in Africa today you have the same in the civilized Africans in the civilized African nations, you have barbaric tribes and you have other ethnic groups that are not as barbaric as the others. So one thing you should understand is this: those Moors, that whole empire, they weren't Moor. The name Moor is a Germanic word for, and that word is used to describe the black skin. It was so there are those people that real name was the Almoravids. Those that particular
Mhm.
empire was, and you know when you do your history of West Africa have ancient upon ancient times. You will see there were some tribes in West Africa that were more advanced and there were some tribes that were less advanced. But there were the Europeans at a certain point in time, Europeans were not advanced as the way they are today. Europeans got advanced later. And we need to make the fact that we too will learn some things from some other people as well. You know, the Islamic civilization, it influenced West Africa. Those guys, the Mansa Musa and what have you, they were not advanced as they were before the Islamic civilization. It was the Islamic civilization that made them very advanced like that. Even though there were some of them that were advanced, like but not as to that extent. Like
So
the
what are we not telling the truth
Sunni.
about though? Because you started off by saying we got to be honest. So I find that it's not really about honesty. It's really more about our limited knowledge of history. Really, people. That's really it
No,
more
hold
than
on,
it. Somebody
there is some of the
lying.
things you are not
So
saying the truth
what are
about.
we lying about? And then you're saying what you're saying is different, or because you're not saying anything different than what I said. So what are we not telling the truth about?
One of the things you are not saying is, the way you explain it as if it was black Africans that carry civilization. You know, like like the Amoravis were led by black Africans. But
I said
that
there
was
were
the context of which I
two
understood it.
different. There are two
Like
different
it was a black, like the
factions.
Amoravis were led by black Africans and they were civilized Europeans. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying there were two different groups of Arabs that came in. One were the darker skinned one, the black ones that are coming from North Africa and also as far south as from Mauritania and Mali, Senegal area. They made up the part of the Moorish group that was there, I think, before the white Arabs kind of came in. The white Arabs came in and they kind of was working together, but then they took over. The white Arabs took over, and the black Arabs were, just there, participating. And then I think they took over at some point, and then the white ones took back over, kicked the Africans out at
Can I
the end.
assist you for a second? Some of them were like a
Let me say
slave
this, right?
army, right? Some of them were a
Let me say
slave
this.
army and they grew to an independent black army that went
Um,
into Europe and wreaked havoc.
I don't
let,
Ah,
know
let
no,
me
no,
say
anything
no.
this,
about
right?
that.
They never went into
I never
Europe
heard
as
of
a
that.
as
Hold
independent
on,
black army.
hold on.
That's it.
Let me say something real quick. Let me say something real quick, right? Liberians do need to come together and fix that country. Liberians really need to come together and put a lot of difference aside and really fix that country because that country deserves better. That country do deserve better. So honestly speaking, right, Liberians need to wake up and I hope they find the right leader because to me they don't have it
I
right now.
only unite with my brothers and sisters. Others that have different
No,
identity
no.
in
I'm
my
saying
in
no,
that have
no.
other different
I'm
identity in
saying
this land. I don't consider
no,
them my brothers and sisters. So I will not unite with those with different
no. I
identity.
understand. I understand. To me, I understand. A Liberian man. There's a lot of wound. That's still within the system of a lot of Liberians. So to me, Liberia, one of these days, do need to come together and fix that country. It's a must. And I hope by what Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is doing, probably the next 4 years, somebody will rise up and actually force change in that country. Because
Yeah.
to me, I believe, right? Black people by nature, we are what do you call it? I don't know the English word. I can't think right now. If you have a
The
leader
way these
that
guys
tells
are
you to do
talking, I'm
this,
beginning to think
you
that
do it.
they are not
If
ready
we have
yet to unite. I think they are just here to just preach.
no, I mean,
Force change. I like that. Force
it's
change.
gonna it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen eventually. It's gonna happen eventually because you see your neighbors, especially like Burkina Faso, doing so many things. Let's just say the next 3 to 4 years, Burkina Faso will change massively. They're currently building a nuclear reactor plant as we speak right now. They're currently building a nuclear reactor plant. They're currently having the best highway. They're currently building the best highway in West Africa, which is 4 lanes. 4 lanes. It's from right here in DC all the way to New York City. They're currently building that by Burkina base, not by Chinese or some white people. It's been done by Burkina base. I was in Sierra Leone
They're
before
doing it all. Wait, you mean there's
before
no outside influence helping them? They're not getting any help.
No, basically
no.
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 In
They're
fact,
not
they
It's
just
getting
no
so
raised
no
a
so
no no
hundred.
every
no Kofi
single thing
Kofi.
is coming
They
from
No,
just
within
hold on,
they
hold
Africa.
just
on,
raised a
hold on.
hundred and
Kofi,
sixty million dollars
Kofi.
from the
Let me explain
Burkina
to you.
Bay
Let me
diaspora.
say
The
this. Let me say this,
manufacturing is
right?
within
Let me
Africa,
hold on,
all with
hold on, hold
100%
on.
Africa.
Let
Did
me
you hear what I
let me
just
say
said?
this. Let me
They
say this.
just
Hold on,
raised
hold
one
on, hold
hundred
on,
and
hold on.
sixty
Shot,
million dollars.
shot,
That's
shot,
great.
shot,
I love
shot,
that. That's
shot,
great.
shot. In my country, Sierra Leone, right? About
Mm-hmm.
they say about 10 years ago, right? Something like that. Probably like 13 years ago, right? We had Chinese came in to to fix our roads, right? I was on my mother house looking downstairs. I mean, looking up, right? I mean, looking down, right? We had the Chinese contractor that came in, right? When you look at the machines they were using, right? All the machines, the people that was using, working on the machines, they were Chinese. Every single one of them, man, was a Chinese individual. When I look at the videos in Burkina Base, right, the people that are actually operating the machines, right, are Burkina Base. Burkina Base purchased those machines. You see the
Mm-hmm.
difference? You see the
Mm-hmm.
difference? I saw my eye in my own country. I saw with my eyes. Every machine that was being operated was being done by Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
This is the opposite. And also, in my country, the Chinese borrow us the machine. They took it back after they finished. Burkina Base
Wow.
purchased the machines. They purchased the machines, and then they the ones operate the machines.
Mm.
It's a big difference, man. It's a big difference. That's why I keep
Dude.
saying the next 3 to 4 years, you
But see that
African
thing you
countries.
mentioned, force change. That's what needs to happen in Nigeria. That the AES or whoever they need to get together and need to force change in Nigeria.
Yeah, African countries have no more
Force
excuses. The
change
next
in
the next couple of
Cameroon.
years,
Force
you won't
change
find,
in Togo.
man, you won't find any highway in West Africa that is a 4 lane connect you like that.
Post
When these men
chain
and
in
these females
Ivory
finish, you're gonna be shocked. You're gonna be shocked, man, when they done. Imagine now, the
Well,
government
you know
purchased the machines.
they're
The equipment
also
has been
protecting it. They have to be very ready in their spirit for the cold winter, which these Europeans they're trying to gear themselves up. But I believe that we got whatever we got it what it takes. Because if we are at the place now, there's no what do we have left? Where can we go? There's nowhere to go. If you're the poorest country in the world, where is there to
thank
go?
you. Yep. Just like they say, like how low can you go? What's the lowest we could go? We have already been in the
I mean, are
lowest.
we gonna go back to
How
chattel
lowest can we?
slavery?
Yeah, how lowest can we go?
I
How
don't
lowest
think
can
we
we go?
see
We
it like
can't.
that. We can't.
Yeah, we can't. We can't go lower
So
than where we at right now. So everything to me, we gonna come back to the top where we were like whatever years it
it's
was.
time,
But
man.
I
It's
believe
got to
that
be
we gonna
time.
come back to the top. It's gonna take time, but
We
you
just
can
need
see
other
it.
countries.
You can see, you can feel it, man. I believe that.
I
I
mean,
100%
I could
believe that.
feel it
We're
too,
gonna.
but the revolution is not going to happen on white platforms, and we have the power
Oh
to
my God,
build
you
our
can't win
own
everything instantly,
platforms.
man.
Hey,
Come on, man. You can't win
we're on
everything instantly,
YouTube,
man.
we're on StreamYard, and they're controlling the algorithms to make us argue. So
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
the
but
but
truth.
that's why you have to find the right channel, the right YouTuber, the right like whatever it is. You got to find the right
YouTube is
people.
publicly traded in the United States. There needs to be the
That's not.
African version of YouTube,
Oh my God.
publicly traded on the African Stock Exchange.
well, the guy that used to own all the ports in Africa, I forgot his name, a Frenchman. He now owns the largest media company in Africa. Now he used to own all the ports. He sold it to another family, another Italian family, the Aponte family. Forgot this guy's name, but he owned almost fucking most of the ports from Senegal all the way around to the east coast of Africa.
Mm.
So now,
Don't worry, man. Don't worry. Sonko, when Sonko will be the president in Senegal in 2029, he gonna change a lot of things.
I mean, you
always
waiting
say,
for people to change. You waiting
what
for
you?
like individuals to change when you could do it
This
yourself.
election. This
you know,
election in
he's a
Senegal.
president
Unless
of
you
a
do a
country.
coup. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
but
Unless you do a coup. What are you?
but history
Come on, man.
shows that private entities control the elections and control who gets in and who
He's
gets
gonna win.
funded.
But he beat that because
He's gonna
he
win.
was not supposed to, he
Come
wasn't
on,
supposed to
man.
be
You
there.
see, you
I'm
you
just
keep
saying, you
slamming.
as an individual could lead your country. You don't have to wait for a president.
Yo,
You could be president.
Sonko will be the next president of Senegal.
Okay.
I'm telling you, Sonko will be the next president of Senegal.
Mhm.
I always come in and I knew Jim Afai was a puppet. I was saying it last year.
Wow.
I always knew that guy was a puppet. I always knew that guy was a
Yeah, he
puppet.
kind
I
of
was saying it early
suspicious
last
of
year.
him too.
But end of the day, I like how those three countries
Well,
are
what do you
led
think
with
about
foundation.
the Benin's president? I'm kind of a little leery of him. Benin's new
Um,
president.
we just got to give him some time and see where he really stands.
Okay, because he's dressed
Yeah,
too white for me.
but sure, I understand what you're saying. We just need to
Yeah,
give him a little
Super
It
more time.
shouldn't
Africa.
be up to any president. It shouldn't be up to any
Super Africa.
president. I think that's an
Yeah,
old concept. That's
Super
like
Africa. I
having
want to make a point.
a king.
Kofi,
Having a
I want to
president
make a
is the
point.
modern day of having like a king. We don't need no kings.
All right, so the way we are talking now, whenever you guys come and we talk like this, and sometimes you change the conversation, you start to attack, it will make others to think that
Do
you
you
are
feel
just
attacked, my brother? Are you a king? Are you a president? What are you
no,
talking
no,
about?
no, no. That's no. I'm not speaking of that. I'm speaking of what happened earlier today when we were having
Hey guys,
conversation.
we've been on 3 hours. We gotta close out. Everyone, thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining. Like,
so
subscribe,
it will
and
make others to think that you don't want us to, like you never